I call to order the regular meeting of the City Council December 2nd, 2014. Let the record state that all members are present and accounted for. We had no closed session this evening, so there's no reportable action out of that, obviously. But we will have an invocation tonight, which will be led by Rabbi Dennis Linson from Temple, Judea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, City staff, and all here tonight for the honor of offering words of prayer and respect. As you heard, my name is Dennis Linson. I am the rabbi and spiritual leader of Temple, Judea. We are located on Moulton Parkway, a block south of El Toro Road. In 2015, we are celebrating our 50th year of service to the South Orange County community. I'm honored to be a member of this wider South Orange County community of which Lake Forest is a part. Dear God, as Americans, regardless of differences in wealth, in status, or in talent, we are equally obligated to serve our nation. The moral value of shared sacrifice is what animates the very idea of citizenship. Valuing the needs of community is the bottom line of meaningful survival. Our connection to each other is our common destiny. The voice of God is heard through many voices, even as it was at Mount Sinai. In our Hebrew scripture, it states in the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 10, "Proclaim freedom throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof." This quote was inscribed on the State House bell in Philadelphia in 1752. The bell and the quote became an icon when slavery abolitionists renamed it the Liberty Bell in 1837. This past weekend, Americans from all walks of life observed Thanksgiving. We're grateful for family and friends and for opportunities to serve. We're grateful to be Americans. Some of us are here because our ancestors fled oppression. Others came with dreams of a better life. Some came against their will as slaves. Others were here for years and years and helped or fought the newcomers to their native land. No matter how we got here, we benefit from our founders' belief in our right to be free. We all benefit from those who risked their lives so future generations could live in freedom. They hoped we'd treasure these freedoms, protect them, teach them to our children. May this be a time for us as Americans to reflect on our common purpose. We give thanks for America's freedoms. We give thanks we can say what we want to say without looking over our shoulder. We give thanks we can vote, and each one of us has a voice in America. We thank those who founded our country. We pray their ideas continue to inspire us. We give thanks for the blessings in our lives and for the privilege, responsibility, and honor of being Americans. It's worthwhile recalling at this time and season so near Thanksgiving that our country's founding fathers based their ideas of national thanks on the festival observance detailed in Hebrew scriptures, on the festival in our Jewish faith tradition of the festival of Sukkot, marking both the Feast of Booths our ancestors used while wandering in the desert and the Feast of Gratitude they created for a bountiful harvest. All of us here tonight are stewards of America. We are the stewards of her ideals and institutions, her cities, and natural beauty. We are entrusted to understand America's past and to guide her future. We are entrusted to create an ever more just America, to create an America secure and free, to create an America abundant and caring for all her inhabitants. On a Sunday morning in Hawaii, 73 years ago, black smoke rose in the sky, loud explosions, anti-aircraft guns firing. Japanese planes were bombing Oahu. The USS Arizona was enveloped in flames. The USS Oklahoma turned on its side. December 7th, 1941, the USS Arizona lost 1,177 servicemen and women, nearly half of all the 2,400 killed in the sneak attack that sunk or damaged 21 ships and destroyed or damaged 320 aircraft. Hickam Field was bombed as well as Battleship Row in Pearl Harbor. Addressing Congress, President Roosevelt said the date would live in infamy. One lesson: isolationism failed our nation. It cannot work in today's global economy. Remember Pearl Harbor became a rallying slogan for the greatest generation of Americans who fought and won World War II, then helped rebuild Japan and Germany. Our gratitude to the millions of men and women who answered our country's call, especially those who died December 7, 1941. Today, in many places and for many reasons, our servicemen and women are in danger. We pray for their protection because they risk their lives protecting us. We pray for our community's first responders and those who guard our public safety. We pray for their safety because they carry the great burden of service. We honor their willing sacrifice and their selfless dedication. They are heroes in believing freedom is better than slavery and tyranny. May God bless them, keep them from harm, and swiftly return them home. Comfort those wounded by battle and by the loss of their comrades. Send your love and support to those who await their return with longing and hope. Extend your grace and solace to those bereaved families who will forever leave an empty chair at their family table to match the empty places in their hearts. And let us here tonight say in unison, Amen. May those who are outgoing public servants be thanked for their service. May those incoming members be inspired. May each of you be inspired in deliberating in the business of your meeting tonight and in your personal and family joy of the holiday season in the weeks ahead. Thank you again.
Thank you. All right. And tonight the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilmember Bass.
Yes, it's my opportunity to do this, but I'd rather have, there's some Boy Scouts here. I've talked with them, and one of them is going to lead us in the pledge. And it's always my honor to call on Boy Scouts to help lead the pledge. Thank you.
Please recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate that, boys. All right, and that's going to bring us to first few items on our agenda here. So,
Agenda Item 1, Resolution Recognizing Outgoing Councilmember David A. Bass, submitted by City Clerk.
all right, and I'll move that we adopt the recommended resolution here.
Second that.
There's a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, council members, cast your votes on the resolution. Item 1. Item passes unanimously. Sure. Well, I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but when we had our last council meeting, but Councilman Bass had some big shoes to fill. He had a very tough responsibility of filling out the remainder of a term, and the one thing that we asked all the applicants was that they hit the ground running. And I think that Councilmember Bass did a fantastic job of hitting the ground running, trying to get yourself up to speed, which our new council members will learn. No matter how much you've been involved in the city, it takes a lot of time. Councilmember Bass had a great background with the city as the city's finance director for a number of years, and has been a resident for much longer than that. Very active in the community, active in the scouting world, and so it's my honor to present this resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake Forest, California, commending Councilmember David Bass for his service to the community as a member of the Lake Forest City Council. Bunch of whereases. I'll spare us all that. But like I said, just I think that he did an admirable job over the last year, and really appreciate your service, and hope and know that you'll continue to be involved in the community. So.
Thank you.
And Agenda Item 2 is resolution recognizing outgoing council member Catherine McCullough, submitted by City Clerk.
And I understand we have some public comments on this item. Is that correct?
We do. Tony Cardenas, followed by Tom Cagley.
Okay. If you just, when you come to the podium, just state your name and the city you live in, and I guess maybe the organization you're representing.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tony Cardenas on behalf of the League of California Cities in the Orange County Division. I'm present tonight to recognize Councilmember Catherine McCullough for her years of service to the League of California Cities on behalf of the City of Lake Forest. Councilmember McCullough has served in various capacities. She's been chair of our policy committees. You've been served on our division board of directors. You've even served on the board of the Mayor's and Council Members Department. But even you went above and beyond when the League embarked on a grueling ballot measure campaign. You dedicated several hours of your personal time collecting signatures and spreading the word. Prop 22 passed, and Lake Forest enjoys constitutional protections of its local revenues from state raids. That is a tremendous accomplishment. You're a champion of local control. It's been my privilege working with you and other members of the City Council over these past years. And with that said, I'd like to present to you a plaque. I'll just read it. It states, "In appreciation to Catherine McCullough, Orange County Division Board Member, League of California Cities, in recognition of your leadership, advocacy, and stalwart defense of local control." Congratulations. And also, I'm going to leave a letter that was written by our Deputy Director of the League in recognition of your work as well. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thomas Cagley.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. I'm Tom Cagley from Lake Forest. I just want to say something. Mrs. McCullough, I don't have any plaque to give you, but I just think you should be recognized for the notice of service you've done for your adult life, that being a military spouse. I had the privilege of serving in the military for over 30 years. I know what you did also. And the people in the community need to know that spouses do more than military members do many times. They're the ones sitting at home waiting to see what happens to the husband in our day. Today it's both husband and wives. I just want to recognize that. I want the community to recognize the fact that you were a very faithful and wonderful woman for serving your husband for so many years. Thank you.
And I'll move that we approve this
I'll second that.
resolution. So, motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, council members, cast your votes on item 2. Item passes unanimously. You want to do it up here, or you want to go down there? Okay, whatever works. Well, I will reiterate again some of the comments that I made a couple weeks ago, but Councilmember McCullough has served this city for a number of years, since 1994, and so that marks 20 years in service to the community, but her involvement in the community goes much, much further back than that. She was involved in Lake Forest becoming a city. She was involved in a lot of the organizing that occurred in the 80s. She's lived in town since 1969. She loves to talk about how El Toro, she remembers it as parts of El Toro Road just being a dirt road. Was there one stoplight or no stoplights in town at the time? Not a single stoplight. And no fast foods, none of that. So she's been instrumental in this community for just a number of years, number of decades, really. And on election night, there were some things that might not have gone everybody's way, and they might have gone other people's way. One thing that passed overwhelmingly here in town with more than 75% of the vote was passage of term limits. So no member now will serve more than 12 years, and then they'll have to take some time off if they run again. I think that there's a high probability that Catherine will go down in the annals of city history as being the longest serving council member of all time at 20 years. And so I just really want to thank you for your service to the community. We didn't agree on everything, but we always worked very well together, and we agreed on most things. So it's really my honor to present this resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake Forest, California, commending Council Member Catherine McCullough for her 20 years of service to the community as a member of the Lake Forest City Council and 2 terms as mayor of the City of Lake Forest. So thank you very much. And before we get to the comments, as many of you know, Councilmember McCullough, just over the last couple of months, had some major health problems and had a surgery. So that's why she's not moving as quickly as she normally does. But I know that when she recovers, she's going to also remain a very active member of our community and be involved in a number of ways. And so, again, thank you for your service. All right.
Agenda item 3, comments by outgoing council members submitted by City Clerk.
Okay, we need a motion on this item as well. No? Okay. All right. And do we have a specific order in mind here? Okay. Then how about we'll start with Councilmember Bass.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I want to thank all those who supported me in the recent election and who supported me while I was on the City Council. I could use my entire time listing all those who have been helpful and supportive. But in lieu of that, there is only one person that I will specifically name, and that is my wife, Jolene. I thank her for all she does for me and for our family. She is the real strength of the family. We recently returned from our 4th trip to Texas in the past 18 months. The reason we go there frequently is we have 2 grandsons living there. And I talked with some people there. I actually met the Mayor Pro Tem at a tree lighting ceremony. And I've lived in LA County, in Orange County, for over 50 years. I don't want to say how much over. And I've worked for either as an employer and consultant to several cities, both in LA and Orange County. Based on that, it seems to me that Texas today is what California was about 30 years ago. And interestingly enough, two other people made that observation and comment to me without my prompting. And I thought about that. I reflected on that. And why is that? One, I believe it is the revenue and spending policies, both at the state and local level. Radically different here than in Texas. The schools in Texas still have bus service. They have a nurse at school. My grandson's in a kindergarten class with 18 students. In first grade, it'll grow to 20 students or so. And I think another factor is regulations, especially environmental ones, both at state and local levels, have created some hindrances to businesses and others. And that as part of this environmental protection and endangered species, I think that the middle class, which is the real driver of the economy, should be considered an endangered species in California. I don't want to say that all cities in LA, Orange County have gone downhill. Some have done well. Lake Forest is one of those. There are a number of others. It certainly matters who leads, both in the terms of the city manager and in terms of the city council. So with that, I have just some suggestions or charges to the new council and the ones remaining. Is to keep spending in line with revenues, keep a balanced budget, and a 5-year financial plan, and always have ongoing funding sources for newer proposed ongoing activities or services. And consider the regulations and requirements and procedures and its impact not only on the environment but also on people and businesses. Because in the long term, the sustainability of a community is the people that are living in it. And finally, on the subject of public discourse, we should avoid contention and be examples of civility. We should set that example for the children in our community. We should love all people, be good listeners, and show concern for their sincere beliefs. Though we may disagree, we should not be disagreeable. We should practice the golden rule. Living with policy differences is essential to politics, but policy differences need not involve personal attacks that poison the process of government and punish participants. All of us should banish hateful communications and practice civility of differences of opinion. When our positions do not prevail, we should accept unfavorable results graciously and practice civility with our adversaries. Thank you all for the opportunity I had to serve the city and the residents.
And Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank my God for giving me the opportunity to serve my city and my fellow citizens and family folks. And when you be put in a mission field, no matter where it is, you're to do your best. And contrary to some opinion, I've done my best, and I feel good about it. Second of all, I'd like to thank the citizens, because I've ran 6 times, and out of 6, I've gotten reelected 5. And that means the citizens was pleased, although, of course, you can never please everybody, no matter what you give them. But the ones that were pleased, and even you that was displeased, sorry you were displeased, but thank you also. I'd like to thank the staff, because some people forget, and they always say, you're always praising the staff. Staff make you look good or bad. You work with them, they're going to make you look good. When you come out here and your paper's all together and you look like you're sharp, staff has done the work in the background, and they don't always get the recognition that they should. When you drive or walk through your streets at night and it's dark and you don't feel afraid, that's a staff Our sheriffs we contract with the sheriff. They have made us feel safe where we can go out late night or early morning. The firefighters, they have taken and made us, they may have to tell us sometime you got to clean those bushes out or whatever, but they've made sure that we haven't lost a lot of structure fires in our city. In fact, we haven't had one home that has been burnt down in all the years we've been a city. So it takes a whole village to make a good, strong city, and we have a good, strong city. I would be amiss if I did not thank my family, because I've missed quite a few birthdays, anniversaries, and family times because I'm usually on somebody's dice somewhere. But I've had the privilege and the honor to represent our city, and I don't know if Tony is still here or not, but whether it was in Washington, D.C., Boston, or Sacramento, or over the region, in the county, and here in our city, you can go behind me. And I'm grateful that Tony was here, because all over this state and the United States, and I got some people in Texas too, mayors in Texas and other states, I've been able to represent you as a person. And when you go behind me, you will always find a good name and favorable thoughts. They have been very gracious and kind to me. From the presidents, the former presidents, I haven't been there with the new president, but from the former presidents and their staff, and all the way from all the last four or five governors we have, it's not so much as Kathy know them. They know Kathy, because I've made sure that my city has been known as the most beautiful city in the world. And when I'm challenged, I tell them, to me it is, because I love my little city. I only have one bit of wisdom that I'd like to leave with the people today. Is what you do is practically every staff, every council that has ever came up here, and I've told the citizens, I come from grassroots. We own the grassroots. We went and fought with the county to get our city, but even though I was on a lot of county committees. And I believe that grassroots should always be involved, because you form a city, and our city is good and solid. You should not stop being a part of grassroots. And grassroots have to do their homework. You don't go on hearsay. You don't go on assumptions. You go on facts. And that's why our city has always been so stable. And one of the things, as they said, I've had some major surgery, but around the first of the year I should be better. I want to see our grassroots back in place, because we need to take and make sure we're supporting our city, the staff, and the new council that's going to be here, that I'm quite sure they're going to do a good job, because we need to do our homework and make sure that things are running how they should be. We need to know how our money's being spent. We need to know what's being built. And this city has been good about getting everyone engaged, and we need to get more engaged. We have a beautiful city here, and I'm trusting all the citizens that if you don't love it as much as I do, try for it. My goal is really high. But remember, we, the people of Lake Forest, have the destiny of Lake Forest, and how involved we get or not involved. So if you're not a part of the solution, you must be a part of the problem. So get involved and do your homework and stay active in the city. If you have not done that, start today. You're never too late. Thank you, one and all, for the time that I've had. It's been a beautiful ride, and I must move on to other things because I'm getting a lot of calls already. Thank you.
Agenda item 4, resolution certifying the November 4, 2014 election, submitted by City Clerk.
And any public comments on the item?
We've had no requests.
Mayor Robinson?
Councilmember Bass?
Yeah, just before, I'll make a motion on this, but just before, I'd like to say that I did have the opportunity to talk with the Registrar of Voters, Neil Kelly, and find him to be just a superb professional in running elections and all that. And you can see the recount that was attempted in another city, that it was exactly the same as what the original count was. And so I'd like to move the adoption of the resolution. I won't upholding the results of the election held on November 4th.
Second.
I'll second that with a comment.
Comment from Councilman Boyd.
You know, this election cycle, we have 2 new council members, but the fact that the city that we live in is truly a blessed city. We're the gateway to South Orange County, and you know, whether it be the widening of the El-12 Road, the Arbor, the wonderful gem of Orange County that we have, the Lake Forest Sports Complex, the sports park, we owe it to our former council members to thank them for what they've done and left us here. And I just pray that we're as good stewards to this city as our former council members. So I just want to thank Ms. Catherine McCullough. Thank you for your service. And thank you, Dave Bass, for your service to our city. We've had some great city council people here, and you may not have always agreed with them, but the fact is our city is a stable city. It's a strong city. The amount we have in reserves is almost $45 million. We built a $82 million sports park on cash flow, no debt. We have a lot of good things going on in our city, and it's because of the city council people that we have. And so thank you for your service to our city, and thank you.
Great. All right, seeing no further discussion, there's a motion and a second, so council members cast your votes. And that item passes unanimously, and we're going to take a brief recess now, so just about 5 minutes.
I'm the type of person I'm as well.
Okay, so are you going to stay or are you going to leave?
Sure how you're going to seat everybody, so.
You know, just for until January.
Yep.
When they,
No, understood,
when
yeah.
the nearest, then you guys can shuffle anywhere you want.
Absolutely.
Just for now.
Does he need a packet?
They have.
Okay.
I
All right.
give
I
them
figured
a
so.
I also have to. I have to pass out.
Okay.
Items he's going to opt out.
Do we need motions on these?
No, just and I do have a public speaker on that one, but I've had no speakers on here. That I'm going to do for you. That one I'll go down to the microphone to do for all three.
Okay. And then this one here, we were talking about, so we're going to just take nominations from the 5 of us and then just take affirmative votes rather than down votes, right?
Affirmative. Yes. Correct. You have a motion and second to nominate someone. All in favor, we'll vote yes. Correct. Yes, yes. Well, typically,
Well, you know what? That makes it actually. Hey, think about that. Like, you should notice there. Let's think about this.
on that office.
I don't know. We don't know.
Go down, I can install the take the name of the person they were.
That way, no one gets That's right. Feels more comfortable. Chew it real quick and then stick it. It might fall out of there. It just might fall out. Well, Rich is around. Do you give him a Hey, well, he was very articulate. Very articulate. He fought through that. Yeah, good job. Now, if it would have been really rambling, 5 minutes, yes. Might have felt Yeah. Could do a better job than
I know. Well, no. This one's. You mean the whole packet or just the summary? I have it here. Yeah, that's redundant. Yeah, part of my notes, but yeah, it's all yours. Thank you. Not at all. How are you? Good to see you. I was gonna have to chew more out. Did it finally came? Oh, that's good. No, I'm gonna be both ways. Yeah, not at all. No.
They're over there. Are they all gone? You mean the green one? Yeah, if they're not over there.
I rarely bring it.
Hey, Scott. Call the meeting back to order. That brings us to agenda item number 5.
Agenda item 5, installation and oath of office ceremony submitted by City Clerk. And for that, I'll go down to the podium. Mayor and Council, it's my pleasure tonight to administer the oath of office and install our newly elected council members. I'll do this alphabetically, so I'd like to call up Council Member-elect Jim Gardner. Dr. Gardner, if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I, please state your name.
I, Jim Gardner,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign or domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, sir. Welcome to the City Council. And it's my pleasure to present you with a certificate of election that states I, Stephanie D. Smith, City Clerk for the City of Lake Forest, State of California, certify that at a general municipal election held in the city on the 4th day of November 2014, Jim Gardner was elected to the office of Member of the City Council, as it appears by the official returns of the election and the statement of votes cast now on file in my office. So,
Thank you.
yeah. And then if you'd like to take your seat at the dais. Our next newly elected council member is Andrew Hamilton. I, Andrew Hamilton,
I, Andrew Hamilton,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which
the duties upon which
I'm about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
Congratulations and welcome to the City Council. And then here is your certificate of election as well.
Thank you.
All right, take your seat at the dais. Councilmember Scott Voits. Please repeat after me. I, Scott Voigt,
Scott Voights,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties with which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you. And that brings us to Agenda Item 6, comments by new council members submitted by City Clerk.
All right, and so I'll go alphabetically as well and start with Councilmember Gardner.
Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Is the TV on everywhere? Okay, great. Good evening, and thank you for coming out in the rain. I take the rain to be a good omen for me. I have a few thoughts that I wanted to share with you. The first thought comes from this cartoon figure. When my wife relented and gave me the okay to run again after I lost 3 times, which is a record for the city of Lake Forest. Ms. McCullough has a record for the longest standing. I have the record for the biggest loser. But she relented, and she gave me that picture, which says basically, never give up. Explains why she was an excellent database analyst, and it probably explains why she's been with me for so long. So the first lesson I want to share with you today is never give up. And the second lesson comes from this poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson, written over 100 years ago and spoken here by Sir John Gielgud. It's a 1 minute, and I want to share that with you.
Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die.
Until I die. He died.
Maybe that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield.
Tennyson wrote that poem over 100 years ago, and over 100 days ago, I asked my friends to embark on a similarly perilous journey against the power of incumbency, against the power of the Republican Party, against the power of the OC Register, maybe not so much power there, and against the power and money of special interests, we prevailed. So the lesson I draw from this is, it's never too late to seek a newer world, which are the first lines of that poem. And along with this, The third lesson from my journey is that nothing's impossible without the help of your friends. Let's face it, I wasn't elected because of my good looks or my gracious personality. So those didn't get me here. It was through the help of dozens, literally dozens of people. And I want to pause now to recognize their achievement because, quite frankly, I'm here because of them. My victory is their victory, and it's them I'll represent because I could never have done this myself. So if you're here and you don't mind standing up, I'd like you to come up here and share this moment with me. Those of you in the campaign like Rose, don't be so shy. Come on. Mary. Come on, Mary. Come on, Barbara, Jean. More than 50 people. This guy was responsible for the Burma Shave ads, which were so effective we couldn't put them up without somebody taking them down within 2 hours. That's how effective they were. This is my long-suffering wife. Okay, Bruce. Bruce was with me from the start, and imagine sticking with somebody through 4 losses, or 3 losses. And Jean as well, and Barbara as well, and Rose as well, several of these people. So thank you very much. I'd like to applaud you. No, it's honestly, I'm not even kidding. They covered 20,000 doorsteps, sometimes 3 or 4 times. Those of you who live in the city probably said, "Here's this stuff again." Liz and Tom, who didn't get up, I don't know why you didn't get up. They helped enormously in this campaign. We covered the streets with signs and banners. We posted, we emailed, we phoned. We never gave up, and that's the important lesson in there. The morning after the election, my wife got up and she said, "Well, we know what to do when we lose. What do we do now that we win?" And I thought for a moment, I had a panic attack. I said, "Holy cow, what do we do? What do we do?" And then I thought to myself, well, I've been shooting off my mouth for the last 6 years, and I've been writing all this stuff about what we should do. Why don't I just go back and look at what I've said we should do or I should do, and let that be the plan? So I did that, and on the side table there is my report number 1 to the people. Every month I plan to put out a report to tell you what I'm up to, what I'm trying to do, and what the council is doing. So when you get a chance, please pick up that. That's report number 1. And we have a Facebook web page as well where people are sharing thoughts, and the thoughts they shared on that page you'll see come up in the deliberations tonight. Power to the people, as Mrs. McCullough said. So please join with me. My goals are to involve more people in the government process, to improve the city's decision-making processes, to increase our quality of life by bringing more amenities to the city, and to spend more of our own money on our own people. It's a very ambitious agenda, and I'll need your support to help achieve it. Please join with us. Never give up, and as the poet said, it's not too late to seek a newer world. Thank you.
And Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you. My audio-visual guy is on vacation, so you're going to hear it straight from me tonight. I don't want to take more than 45 minutes of my comments, so if you bear with me, seriously, I just have some brief comments. I want to say thank you. Thank you to God for His many blessings in our community, in our country, in my family's lives. To both Catherine McCullough and Dave Bass for their tremendous contributions to this community. For my grassroots supporters, you can stay seated. Too numerous to name individually that helped me on my campaign. To the great voters of Lake Forest, thank you very much for choosing me to serve you. I think I have somebody else. My wife and 2 daughters. Thank you very much for your support during this long and tiresome campaign. I think those are your words. I don't know where I would be without your love and support. Ashley, Brooke, and Jill. We've got a great staff. I'm looking forward to continue working with you, moving from the Plan Commission to the City Council. I have a strong desire to serve our city and see a can-do and collaborative relationship with my colleagues. I realize I'm one of 5 members of this City Council, one of the newest ones, and we will need to work together, along with staff, to reach across the dais to keep Lake Forest moving forward. And to my fellow residents and neighbors, I'm accessible. I humbly request your input. Please let me know your ideas and issues in town so we can work together to make things better. No one has all the answers, as I'm the first to admit. Thanks again to everybody. And Catherine, I think I might love Lake Forest just a little bit more than you. Maybe we'll arm wrestle on it or something. Thank you very much.
And Councilmember Voights.
Well, I first want to thank my God. I thank the Lord and my Savior, Jesus Christ. He's the one that actually gave me the favor to come in number 1 with the relentless pieces that were going out there. And to you, Jim Gardner, volunteers, you guys did work tirelessly in getting those streets and getting those parking lots covered with his stuff. And so my hat's off to you guys. And even though I thought that was negative campaigning, you guys did win. And so I look forward to working with you, Jim, Councilman Gardner, the Honorable. I do look forward to working with our new 2 council members, because we are a team up here. We're a team of 5, and it's important that we realize that it's not one person that's going to make it, and we're going to have our disagreements, but the fact is that I think we should do it always in a respectful manner. And I think that the title of honorable comes along with what you've just won. And I congratulate, my hat's off to both of you for winning a seat here on the City of Lake Forest. Lake Forest is a beautiful city. We're truly blessed of God. We're the gateway to South Orange County. Not only are we geographically blessed, we're blessed because of the kind of people who live in Lake Forest, the kind of people who have lived here since the beginning of Lake Forest, when it was formerly El Toro, as Kathy McCullough knows it, as a dirt highway with no stop signs, no street lights on El Toro Road. I moved into Lake Forest when Lake Forest Drive stopped at Chibuco. There was actually a wood barricade there, and they were just building the mobile gas station there. Wasn't even on the plans for any of the stuff that was going on beyond Chibuco on Lake Forest at that time. El Toro was truly a 2-lane highway, and there was an old bridge that was not far from the bridge that's there now, but it's in a different location because the creek changed. And Kathy, as a long-term and someone that's on Watershed, you've seen the changing of the tide of Lake Forest, and seeing Lake Forest come from a rural farming community to the bustling suburb that we are today. And people want to criticize us for the growth that we have. Well, the growth that we have is just because it's a great place to live. Lake Forest, Orange County, is really truly the last piece of gold in the once golden state of California, and I think it's because of the kind of leaders we have in Orange County, in Lake Forest. We believe it's not our money, it's your money, and we're going to be good stewards of that money. It's important that we watch over that and do what's best for that and make wise decisions, and that's why I start every morning with a prayer to God that He gives me His wisdom. And it's important that we respect those that are serving our city in the green and gold. We're so blessed to have the Orange County Sheriff Department serving our city because of the kind of protection they do give us. And the fire authority, that fire that was on Kenyatta Loop a few weeks ago, we drove by when there was a fully engulfed forest on fire right off Kenyatta Loop, right behind the mobile gas station. And we drove by when it was fully going, and I thought for sure we were going to lose apartments, but it was the good job and the great quality of service and protection that we get from the Orange County Fire Authority. So my hat's off to you guys. That was close to those structures, and congratulations for doing that. Thank you. I really feel that we are so lucky to have the history and the line of people that have come forth that truly, like Kathy McCullough, Peter Herzog, and Richard Dixon, those people that have served our city before, is the direction that we have because of the kind of finances we have. That is the money that we have in the bank, the $45 million cash we have in our savings, is not because of us. It's because of the lineage of the people and the wisdom of those that have came before us. And so I know that these two gentlemen love Lake Forest, and as much as Jim has liked to talk at the podium these last few years when I've been up here, I know he's passionate about it, and he's going to work hard for us. I know that. I know that Andrew Hamilton is an honorable man who's going to work hard for us. Mayor Robinson, my hat's off, and I think that we all owe Mayor Robinson, while I'm here, I want to say thank you for the job you've done as mayor this year. Thank you. And last but not least, I want to thank our city staff, our mayor, our city manager, Bob Dunnick, who I think is the finest shipper of any city ship in this county or this state. I think Bob Dunnick's done a wonderful job in directing the course of this city and helping us come together as a unit, as a team, and I know that he will help with this new council that we have. I am committed, and I'm telling this to all you, as whether you're my supporters in the past or not, I am going to work tirelessly for the good of the residents of Lake Forest, the businesses of Lake Forest, and I eagerly look forward to working with the Honorable Jim Gardner and the Honorable Andrew Hamilton. I think that because you chose them, I'm going to work with them. I can't pick the team that I'm here with, but I can work to my best of my ability with them to make Lake Forest a better place. And as much as I mean a better place, I think that we are a great place. I think the opening of our sports park this year was a milestone for our city. I think the coming of our new civic center, which will be a dedicated senior center, the new Orange County Sheriff Southeast Substation, which is going to be opening next year, right above Etney Sports Park off Lake Forest Drive. The city of Lake Forest is on stable ground. We're heading in great directions, and with the addition of these two new councilmen, they're fresh ideas. I think that we are bound for success in the future. So I think 2015 is going to be a great year for us, and so I want to thank you, whether you're with me or whether you're with Andrew Hamilton or you're with Dr. Jim Gardner. I think that you all deserve a back on your hand because you guys played a role in the direction of our city, and we are heading in a great direction. So thank you, residents of Lake Forest, for your votes this year. I want to especially thank my wife, Stephanie, for the wind beneath the wind. She is mine. My daughter, Shaylin. I've been blessed to have two wonderful girls, and I think that that's why we want to be involved in Lake Forest, because we have family, friends, and not only does my family, as my immediate family, I have my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, I got 3 brothers that live in Lake Forest, I got 2 cousins and their wives, I've got nieces and nephews. No matter what elementary school you go into Lake Forest, I have nephews and nieces there. So I'm dedicated to the city of Lake Forest, and I'm committed to the success of city of Lake Forest. And so thank you for being here tonight and honoring those that have been duly elected. And I just want to wish you guys all a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, and a truly blessed 2015. Thank you.
All right, congratulations to my colleagues and my returning colleague, and let's get down to business.
Agenda Item 7, Selection of Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem for the ensuing year, submitted by City Clerk.
All right, so I'm going to open the floor up to, so we have some public comments first. Okay.
Yes, Randy Johnson.
And again, if you just state your name and the city you live in, I'd appreciate it. Thanks. You have 3 minutes and see the lights
good.
there. So.
Hi, my name is Randy Johnson. I live here in Lake Forest. And, normally I don't come to these meetings. It's not that I don't have an interest. I really do. I mean, I keep up on what's going on in Lake Forest. But, during basketball season, it's hard to pull myself away from the television set. Okay? And on a night like this, who in their right mind is going to show up to a city council meeting? But Item 7 is so important that I felt compelled to be here tonight to speak to all of you. And by the way, welcome to the two new city council members. What you're about to embark on tonight, I feel, is probably one of the most, if not the most important decision that you will make this year, and next year for that matter, and that's selecting a new mayor. Don't take that lightly, please. Don't take it lightly. It's not a type of thing where you can just stand in line and you're entitled when your number comes up, all of a sudden you can step into the mayorship. No, you earn it. That's an earned position. You have to have the respect of your colleagues, you have to have the respect of your citizens, and you have to prove to us that you deserve to be the mayor. Because when you walk into a room, of important people at some of these meetings that you go to, you're my face. You're the face of 80,000 people. You represent all of us. And when I listened to that oath, I almost cried, to be honest with you, okay? That's the most beautiful oath I've ever listened to. It's just a shame that not more politicians follow it. And I challenge each of you, when you take that oath, I urge all of you to actually do what you say you're going to do when you take that oath. That's an incredibly beautiful oath. Don't take that lightly either. My point here is that I elaborated on this quite some time, last meeting. I don't want to go over it again. I've already talked to you about it, how important it is to be the mayor. I think that Mayor Robinson has done an admirable job in his first term here. I haven't read any bad things about him in the Orange County Register. He hasn't been part of any scandals. He puts on a good face for the city, I believe. He conducts himself in this meeting like a real gentleman. Last meeting I saw some woman get up here and take shots at him. I just cringed, okay, at what she said. And Mr. Robinson was just as cool as a cucumber. Just as cool as a cucumber. In total emotional control and emotionally mature. And I have a lot of respect for that. That's what we need as a mayor. That's the kind of guy I want to be my mayor. So when you consider this tonight, and I'll be honest with you, have my druthers, he gets another term. That's how I feel, okay? Because the guy is really what we expect of a mayor. I want him to be our mayor next term as well. So don't take this lightly tonight, please. Consider this. You've already changed the rules, so anybody is entitled to this. And give everybody due respect that they deserve. But I ask you to select somebody who's not going to embarrass the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've had no further requests.
Great. Okay. So how we've typically done this, we take nominations from the floor. So I know we've got a couple of new members here. We take nominations from the floor, and then we're going to take a roll call voice vote rather than our typical electronic board that we have here. So I'll open it up to nominations from the floor for the position of mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I'll nominate Andrew Hamilton.
Okay. So Councilmember Gardner nominates Andrew Hamilton.
Well, it seems like you're being shy to second it, so I'll second it, Andrew.
All right. And I'm going to nominate Councilmember Voights. Yeah.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Any further nominations? We can all be nominated, so. Okay. Seeing none, then.
Mayor Robinson, I do apologize. There is a public speaker that has just indicated that they wanted to speak on this item.
Okay. All right.
Gregory Sprague.
Good evening. Unfortunately, you know me, and I am a rebel, and nothing's new today. My subject is Pinocchio because I am tired of being lied to. 2 weeks ago to this morning at 8:30 a.m. I went to Bagel and Brew, and here are 6 Orange County sheriffs having coffee, breakfast, whatever you want. I called and left a message with the lieutenant at night so he couldn't argue with me. He called me back 2 days later, said, doesn't look like what you're saying. There were 6 sheriffs up there, but they were having a staff meeting. Don't try to hoodwink an old man like me. I've been around. Number one, one sheriff was reading the sports page. So that's totally not true. They only have 8 or 9 cars on the street. It would be nice if they would drive by a merchants and be seen, even write a report in front of the bank. There are 4 banks in the area of Rockfield and El Toro. Look at them smiling there. But they do nothing. So my complaint, that's done on that. Now we're going to go to the Slithering Snake. You remember that when I was up here 4 weeks ago? I had the investigator call me up. Oh, that's your name. I've been to your house. So I thought he was a little biased. So when he came to my house, he had the 6 pictures. I didn't go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I picked him out immediately. He was number 6. I see him here tonight. He's still here, I think. No big deal. But I paid my fee. I sent for the report. I got 2 pages. Nothing on what the investigator wrote, and I personally feel it was perjury. And on that report that the reporting officer wrote, misspelled a word too. That's completely. He has a witness as a member of the police department. They weren't there. I mean, the whole report. They need some more schooling. Now I want to tell you why they're mad at me, and then I'll be done. They're mad at me because I keep jabbing them. Because about 20 years ago, behind the theaters that used to be at Home Depot, they were critiquing the highway patrol on a stolen car. Well, I was in the service 9 years. When you point a gun at someone, you only do it if you're going to shoot them. Well, one of our sheriffs shot an Afro-American sheriff in the head on Christmas Day. To me, that's manslaughter. 2, if you don't like that, it's reckless homicide. At the very least, it's reckless conduct. Nothing. You know what they did? Come on in the office. If you leave the state, we'll give you your pension. I almost vomited when I heard that. You're paying someone that's 25, 30, 50,000 a year for a pension, and he can be living 30 to 40 years. That's $2 million that these people have to pay. I'm done, and thank you, and have a good term, and maybe I won't come back, but it's something to think about. Inept.
Thank you. All right, so that brings us back to our agenda item here. We have nominations for both Andrew Hamilton as well as Scott Voights, and so we'll do a roll call vote from the city clerk.
And it's my understanding that the council member will state just the name of the person that they wish to support. So, Councilmember Gardner, Councilmember Hamilton,
Scott Voights,
Councilmember Voights,
Scott Voights,
Mayor Pro Tem Nick,
Scott Voights,
Mayor Robinson.
Scott Voights.
So, Councilmember Voights is selected as mayor for the 2015 calendar year.
All right. All right, and that gives us the opportunity to, for nominations on the position of Mayor Pro Tem as well, so we'll go through the same process here, take nominations from the floor. So.
Andrew Hamilton.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second for Andrew Hamilton. Any other nominations? Okay. Seeing none, then I guess we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Gardner,
Andrew Hamilton.
Councilmember Hamilton,
I guess I'll vote for myself, Andrew Hamilton.
Councilmember Voights?
I'm honored and blessed to vote for Andrew Hamilton.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick?
Andrew Hamilton.
Mayor Robinson?
We'll make it unanimous. Andrew Hamilton. All right, that brings us to presentations.
Agenda Item 8, recognition of Outgoing Community Services Director, submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask you to, I think, join Mr. McGill down at the podium. We're going to thoroughly embarrass him, if we could, for a moment. It is certainly our pleasure this evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Council, to recognize a longstanding, strong member of our city staff, Mr. Gary McGill, our Director of Community Services, who is retiring, and his last day is like, I don't know, next week. This is his last council meeting. He's going through a whole series of, this is my last of this, my last of that. I told him you got to lean into the tape all the way to the end, though, and he has been doing that, working very hard for the city of Lake Forest. He joined our city on May 15th, 2006, and we brought him over from the city of Tustin, where he was working for quite some time. And one of the things that struck me about Gary and why he'd be appropriate for our community is that he had great experience in helping to build facilities, sports parks. And I knew we were going to have a sports park that we were going to build. So to me, it was clear that Gary was the right person to take the helm here in Lake Forest and help guide us not only through building one of the, obviously, the best sports parks in Orange County, but also in helping to renovate the parks throughout our entire community. And so the council a few years ago gave him a budget of $8 million to improve parks throughout the entire city of Lake Forest. And we've done a magnificent job. Gary has helped steer that, and clearly I think the community is much better off because of his contributions in renovating parks for our community and bringing and helping to bring the reality of our sports park. But I'd also want to say that Gary's done a tremendous job in building programs for our community. Those of you who've been in the community a long time know that our brochures in many years past were a little thin, and now when you get them, they're like doorstops. We provide to this community in terms of recreation programming. I would stack up against any community nearby. It's just magnificent. He's built a truly professional recreation community services department for the city of Lake Forest. He's got quite a resume. I won't go through all of that, but Mr. Mayor, we would appreciate it if you could, in fact, help recognize Gary on his retirement. We know we have a plaque for him, and if everyone would just join me in thanking Gary McGill for his service to our city.
One of my last meetings myself as mayor, so so we can share some laughs here. But it's my honor to present this city tile, this plaque to you. So to Gary McGill in recognition of service as Community Services Director 2006 through 2014. And I have to say, I have a brand new neighbor that just moved into town a couple weeks ago from Huntington Beach, and one of the first things that I did was give him that leisure times and let him know about the robust recreation activities we have here in town. And he was telling me about how he's from Oregon and moving down here. He just thinks of this as being the suburbs, but you take a look at that and all the things that you've been able to put together, whether it was preschool programs or all the recreational activities. In fact, I remember one of the first things that I asked Gary when I got elected was, I saw his name on the list of activities going on, and I said, so do you get to go to all of these, the excursions to Hollywood? And all? He said, no, that's just my name. I said, well, he's the one that put those in place. Doesn't get to always get to have fun doing those things, but make sure that the community does. And so in recognition of that, we want to present this title to you, and we know that you're going to be active in the Southern Orange County region for a long time, so we're sure you will. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, I just consider myself very lucky. It's been great. We had a great ride. We accomplished a lot in the last 8 years. I want to thank City Council, very supportive. They obviously are committed to the recreation programs that we have. I see some of my Parks and Rec commissioners out here. I want to recognize them, and I have to recognize my staff. It's real, you have a great staff. It makes your job a lot easier, and I had a really terrific staff. We did a lot with the parks, and then the Lake Forest Sports Park. I mean, I will repeat what everybody says. Wow. It is just an unbelievable facility. We're going to have great programs there. And then on top of that, we've got 3 new parks coming on. We've got a new dog park coming in. We have a new park up at Portola Hills, the Portola Hills Park, and Whispering Hills. So in addition to all the great things we have, there's great things coming, and I just consider myself lucky, and thank you very much.
And Mayor Robinson, we do have one member of the public who'd like to speak on this item. Catherine McCullough.
We have a tradition among the councils. When a department head leaves, we find out what their little snack thing is. We had one that hers was bananas. Come on over. And I have to kind of call around the staff, and they kind of check. Some be chocolate, some be sunflower seeds. We've had all kinds of things that they nibble, keep their brains going. And Gary is no different. I had to try to find out what he liked. And so I found out that he likes pistachios. He likes to nibble on them. So we got him some pistachios from the council.
Thank you.
And even though I'm on this side, it's still from the council. And we like for the department head to know that we appreciate how you run your department. We appreciate what you've done. And if you go from one end of this city and look at all the amenities and the programs we have, you will see that 99% of them has Gary's name on it, whether he gets a chance to participate in it or not. But he does come to many of the things. So Gary, from the old council and the new council, I'd like to tell you thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank Catherine especially. We're going out together,
Yes.
We are. And I like to see, when you were up there, you were getting feisty again. And I like to see that. So I like to see you getting your energy back. And I'm sure you're going to do more great things. So thank you so much.
Now, hold on. Somebody get a picture in a minute. But I'm asking the new council, this is my first request to the new council, please keep this tradition up. And if you don't do it, just give me a call. I'll check with the staff and I'll bring it in, because it's something that really lets them know we appreciate all they did. Thank you. Somebody with a camera?
Carlo.
We got to have a picture. Gary and I go way back.
As many of you might know, I work for State Assemblyman Don Wagner, so because of the rain this afternoon, I ran out of the office without bringing the certificate from the state of California through State Assemblyman Don Wagner's office. And so Assemblyman Wagner wants to say thank you for representing those that play those athletes that are here in Lake Forest, whether it be club, Little League. Gary spent not only 8.5 years here, but he spent 39 years in municipalities throughout Orange County. And one of his hallmarks of Gary McGill is something that will go on for eons to come. It's the chili cook-off in Tustin. And we're very, as an office of Assemblyman Don Widener, who represents Tustin also, we're at this chili cookout every year. And so we want to thank you for what you've done here in Lake Forest and the service you've given throughout Orange County, including Tustin. And so thank you from the state of California, from Assemblyman Don Widener, and congratulations on your retirement. Thank you.
All right, so that's going to bring us to our report from our student liaison, who's been so patiently waiting. So, if you're in civics, this should give you some extra credit or something.
At least an A+ already. So, good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. This is Joseph Hanna, your student liaison, reporting on Tuesday, December 2nd, 2014. Unfortunately, I have some bad news to report. We did not reach our goal of 80,000 cans for the canned food drive. We crushed our goal. Please prepare yourself for this number. We collected 86,394 cans. ASB averaged about 609 cans per student, making us the winning homeroom, bringing over 20,000 cans. However, enormous shout out to Mr. Roberts' homeroom for bringing over 26,000. The classroom competition is based on the ratio between the cans brought in versus the students in the class. Mr. Roberts has 55 students compared to ASB's 33. As fun as the competitive nature of the students are, we could not have gotten it done without the help of the whole community. That's what makes Lake Forest special to the rest of the cities, our powerful sense of community and service to those who are in need. From everyone at El Toro, we thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of Mr. Roberts' choir, our road shows have started this week. The 2 show choirs, an all-girls group, Choralistics, and a mixed group, Sound Station, traveled to local venues to perform what we've been practicing on for over 2 months. In fact, we are scheduled to perform here in front of our great city council, so please keep your eyes open for yours truly. Last but certainly not least, as winter sports began today and fall sports come to a close, multiple chargers have been received extremely prestigious awards. To start off, ASB's own Kaylee Demersion, whom I mentioned previously, finished 11th out of over 200 girls at CF Finals, making her the 3rd individual there to move on to state finals. At state finals, Kaylee finished 41st out of 199 of California's best girls cross-country runners. Kaylee finished her season on a dream. She finishes as one of El Toro's fastest girls in history. She's not done yet. As track season soon approaches, Kaylee hopes to continue her track and field legacy. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, because I like you guys. Senior wide receiver and my best friend Caleb Fossum is a South Coast League overall MVP, meaning that of all the players of the South Coast League at all the schools, which is El Toro, Mission, Viejo, Tesoro, San Juan Hills, and Dana Hills, Caleb was picked the most valuable player, finishing the season with 95 catches for 19 touchdowns, 1,130 yards receiving, and 1,062 yards returning. That's not the only Charger that's a South Coast League MVP. Quarterback Trey Tinsley was awarded the South Coast League Offensive MVP. Trey has 596 completions for 66 touchdowns, with 7,442 passing yards, averaging 281.7 yards per game. This is a secret because the official South Coast League announcements has not been publicized yet. And that's all for tonight, and until next time, this is Joseph Hanna signing off, and as always, go Chargers!
All right, thank you very much. We're going to briefly recess the City Council for the purpose of conducting the Lake Forest Housing Authority business, which is this salmon-colored agenda, if you happen to have them. So, there were no items scheduled for closed session, so there's nothing reportable from there. No presentations. Do we have any public comments tonight?
We've had no requests for the Housing Authority.
Okay, so that brings us to the consent calendar, items 1 and 2. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the Lake Forest Housing Authority, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Do we have any requests from?
We've had no requests.
Council members, any items you want to remove from the consent calendar here?
Your Honor, I'll have to remove item 1 because I wasn't here, so I'll have to abstain from that.
assume the same is true for Councilmember Hamilton, so.
Move the remainder.
Okay, so there's,
Or move the consent calendar with the exception.
so move 1 and 2 with the abstentions from the 2. And I'll second that. So there's a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion on these items, council members cast your votes. And the abstentions will be recorded on item 1, so. Great, and that item passed unanimously. I was just assuming that you've already been trained on how to use these, so am I correct in that assumption? Okay, great, fantastic. Let's see. And do we have an executive director's report?
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Any agency member comments? Seeing none, I will adjourn the Lake Forest Housing Authority business and reconvene the City Council. And that brings us to the public comments portion of the agenda. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person, overall time limit of 30 minutes for the public comments portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form available under the exit sign off to my left, your right. The completed form is to be submitted to the City Clerk prior to an individual being heard by the City Council. Whenever possible, lengthy testimony should be presented to the City Council in writing with 8 copies and only pertinent points presented orally. Additionally, a request to register written comments form is available under the same exit sign over there. Have we had any requests from the public on non-agenda items?
Yes, Randy Johnson, followed by Bob Holtzclaw.
And again, if you just state your name and the city you live in, and then the lights will come on. When they turn red, your time's up. So.
Hello, my name is Randy Johnson. I live in Lake Forest. And a couple things. First of all, I was very surprised today. You know, I logged on to the city website to see what was on the agenda, and the video from the last meeting on the 18th hadn't even been posted yet for the citizens to view. I mean, that shows a complete disregard, okay, for transparency as far as I'm concerned, and it shows total disrespect for the citizens. The reason we have these videos is so the citizens can watch what takes place. Many people can't show up here for one reason or another. Maybe they're homebound, whatever, okay? But that's inexcusable. I called Mission Viejo, I called Laguna Hills, I called Irvine, I called San Juan Capistrano. I asked them, how long does it generally take for your city to post a video of a city council meeting? All of them have videos. 1 day. 1 day. They say it's up. The policy is to have it up the next day. And so Lake Forest is doing something really wrong there. And it's not the first time it's happened either. I brought it to the attention before to some people when another, in fact, back on June 10th when I spoke about Orange County Animal Care. Okay, it took almost 2 weeks for that video to show up. Something's wrong. It needs to get cleaned up and fixed. Number 2, there was an article in the Orange County Register entitled, "After Decade, Orange County Animal Care Director Moving On." Okay, now, I've been up here like 3 times talking about this so far. And I'm going to keep talking about it. This guy jumped ship. In fact, it says here that he will start his new job as Deputy Director Monday in Long Beach headquarters of the Department of Animal Care and Control for the County of Los Angeles. This is what he said. "It's an emotional day for me. I've been here 13 years, he said Thursday as he packed up his Santa Ana office. I've grown to love this organization and the people I've worked with." But what about loving the citizens who paid his salary and paid his pension? You know, so he just gets up and leaves? I mean, he doesn't stick around and maybe have the Board of Supervisors select another person who could take his place, just jumps off the ship. And, you know, I'm asking myself, something's wrong here. We're missing something. I'll tell you what's wrong. This is a ship without a rudder. That's what's wrong. And I told you that we're paying 200% to 400% more for our dog license fees in Lake Forest. Our late fees are astronomical, $65 late fee and collection fee for a $27 neutered dog license. If you're 15 days late. There's no other city, no other county that does that to their citizens. None. I've given you a spreadsheet. You know the facts. And the ones, Jim and Mr. Hamilton, it's on the public record. I sent a copy to the clerk, and it's supposed to be part of the public record, so you can see the spreadsheet that I did on this, showing you the variations of price between what we pay here in Lake Forest and what all the other cities pay that aren't part of Orange County Animal Care and the surrounding counties. It's wrong. Not only that, I called Animal Care 4 times. Not recently. This is like in the last 2 or 3 years. My wife and I were walking our dog one night, and some German shepherds came out of a house and surrounded us, started walking. I picked my dog up. We only have a small dog, and started baring their teeth. And I called animal control. You know how long it took them to show up? 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. And it's not the only time. We had the problems with the same dogs. Took them. That's the earliest time it took them to show up. Sometimes it takes 3 or 3.5 hours. Something's wrong there, folks. You need to protect us. You need to represent us, and you need to do something at least to get the ball rolling on an alternative, another option, other than Orange County Animal Care, because it's a ship without a rudder. They're out of control. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Holtzclaw, followed by Jim Rosenberg.
Mayor, may I make a comment, brief comment?
A brief one, yes.
Mr. Johnson, I share your concern about Orange County Animal Services, and personally, I'm going to do what I can to improve the situation.
I'll be a little shorter. My name is Bob Holtzclaw, and I live here in Lake Forest for about 34 years. First thing is, Mr. Gardner, you've been a councilman now for 45 minutes. Where's our dog park or senior center? I'm just kidding you. But 2 weeks ago when we had our last meeting, I was a little disturbed about some of the outbursts that happened. And it has no place in a city council meeting. 2 ladies came up here. They read off their complaints, and that was fine. They sat down, and they did their thing. One person came out here, and they were yelling back and forth from the audience. Police services should have said something. I mean, this has no place in our city council for something like this, to be yelling back and forth to the council people here. It's not what we should be doing here in a city council meeting. Second of all, I mentioned that there was no signs that says "Don't feed the ducks around the lake," and I had someone to the left saying there's signs. Well, this council should, and the people on my left should take a look at the duck pond, and there is no sign that says "Don't feed the ducks." There's plenty of signs around the lake of different rules about not putting ducks on the lake or taking ducks or harassing animals or whatever, but there is nothing there that says "Don't feed the ducks," and that's why we have all these geese out there. I've seen people with loads of bread. As a matter of fact, I've brought photographs for you. And this is something that we've really got to take care of down there. And hopefully we can get this duck pond in good shape and what it should be. That's just about all I've got to say. And, congratulations on our new 2 members. And I hope we can all work together. I know I've emailed you, Mayor Robinson. And hope we can get together too sometime. All right? Take care. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Jim Rosenberg, followed by David Glick.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, residents, 2 different topics. And since I am a Gemini, I guess I can be one person for one and one for the other. The first is to say thank you to Councilmember McCullough, and also, I think he's Councilmember Bass, for your service. Gary, thank you for the service, the friendship, and one day there will be a plaque up on Rancho Parkway that says the Gary McGill Lake Forest Sports Park. Wow is not superlative enough to say what's been done. Mayor Robinson, thank you for your service. To our new 2 council members, thank you in advance for your service. which I know is going to be a good thing. Okay, jump shift real quick. U.S. Marine Corps Support Committee, just to give you a little bit of an update. We're going into the fourth quarter of the game. If any of you watched the heartache or the heart attack game with San Diego and Baltimore over the weekend, we've taken a couple of leaps in faith. We've landed on our feet. As I look back at what is 9 months of reality, I think we've achieved more than what we bit off to, and we bit off a lot. I want to share with you Thanksgiving, what happened. We got in on the deal. People bring turkeys, okay? We said that's not good enough. We're not only going to bring turkeys, but we're going to give them a complete meal with non-perishable items instead of things that don't last. So we put together a program, and we committed to it with one leap of faith. And there were a couple of angels who are in this room right now. Mr. Scott, the only request I would make at your next partner meeting is that you change the name of the firm Best, and Even Better. Okay? For a great contribution. Dave Glick. Dave's in the back, sitting in the back. Dave is the president of Lake Forest One, HOA. Dave also works for a mortgage bank, and Dave approached and said, we'd like to help. Between those two major entities, help from Grace Community Church and Walmart, as always, who's been a major partner to us in all of our programs. We've got the 50 meals totally, and when they found out there were meals, it wasn't just the turkey. I was told that one young Marine approached his company commander and said, this is great. All I have to do is buy a roaster. And he was told, no, you don't, because those are being supplied as well. So we did a really nice job. They are greatly appreciative. They are greatly enamored with what this city, as 80,000 some people, are doing, for which I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
David Glick, followed by Stan Yambo.
I want to continue the positive segment. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff. My name is David Glick. I am the president of Lake Forest One, or we call it the New Lagoon. 24-year residence of again, beautiful Lake Forest. I have two little comments to make. Number one, I'd like to invite everybody to Lake Forest One's boat parade, which is Friday at 6:30. It's our annual boat parade that has Santa. We're going to have snacks and cocoa and what have you. So it'll be a nice event for you and the family. First off, second off, I had the pleasure and a great opportunity to help with the battalion Marines. My company was able to provide, I believe, 50 families their dinner, and personally, myself and a couple of others in my company went there and distributed the food with a great job with Jim, and I couldn't be pleased. We want to continue doing this for the Lake Forest community and our Marines, and for everybody in the service. So anyway, thank you all, and have a good holiday.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Stan Yambo.
Good evening. My name is Stan Yombo. I'm a resident of Lake Forest. I'm glad, actually, to be a resident of Lake Forest. It's a beautiful city. I want to thank, of course, Council McCullough and Baz for the service. It was a pleasure to meet them. And, of course, I want to congratulate Councilmember Hamilton and Dr. Jim Corner. Congratulations. I hope we're going to get actually a good term, because I think we kind of tire to see all those little fights here at City Council. It's very important for everybody to behave. We can disagree, but I don't think we should put certain word. I'm glad we had Mayor Robinson, which is a gentleman, because he was able to handle all those situations very as a gentleman. So I want to thank you for that. I'm here because my hotel is next to this lot, was empty. And some people blame my hotel because people go with their dog and do their business down there. So I don't know what we're going to do about that. Is there a solution? Are we going to build something in there, or I don't know. But so people are blaming us that we're sending people down there to wear their dogs and stuff like that. So I just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
I think you're referring to the Whispering Hills Park site, which...
That's correct.
Which we'll be having community meetings next year about how to develop that. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There have been no further public comment requests.
Great. Okay, so that's going to bring us to the consent calendar warrant register, item number 9. All matters listed under the warrant register are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the warrant register for separate action. Do we have any members of the public wish to pull anything?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, council members, anything you'd like to pull from the warrant register? Okay, seeing none.
Move the warrant registry.
There's a motion to move the warrant register.
Second.
Second by one of our 2 new council members. So seeing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. Item passed unanimously. That brings to the consent calendar miscellaneous items, numbers 10 through 16. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There are no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Do we have any members of the public wish to pull any items?
Yes, item 14.
Item 14. Okay. And council members, any items that you'd like to pull other than item 14?
12 and 18.
12 and 18 by Councilmember Bass.
And 11.
And 11 by Councilmember Hamilton. And so that leaves 10, 13, 15, 16, and 17.
And so I'll make a motion to move the remainder.
Second.
Mayor Robinson, if I could just ask for the opportunity to disclose, item number 17 is a cost-sharing agreement. Our firm represents 2 parties to that agreement, this city and the city of Aliso Viejo. We memorialized the terms, didn't negotiate them, and yet staff was aware of that, but we want the council to know that before you vote that we have 2 client interests in that project.
Great. Any questions about that? Okay, seeing none. Then there's been a motion. Was there also a second? Sorry. Okay, so motion and a second for the remainder of, other than those that have been pulled. And again, those that have been pulled are 11, 12, 14, and 18. So seeing no further discussion, council members, cast your votes. And those items pass unanimously. Again, that's items 10, 13, 15, 16, and 17.
Agenda item 11, minutes of the regular meetings of the City Council held on October 21st, 2014, and November 4, 2014, submitted by the City Clerk and removed from the consent calendar by Councilmember Hamilton.
Just going to abstain.
Okay. All right. So seeing no further...
I'll move the item.
Okay, so there's a motion to move the item.
Second.
And a second. Council members, cast your votes. Item passes with 3 affirmative votes and 2 abstentions. And the reason why they're abstaining, I'm guessing, is because they weren't on the council at the time that that meeting took place. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Agenda item 12, adoption of ordinance number 269, establishing an administrative citation program, submitted by City Clerk and removed from the consent calendar by Councilmember Gardner.
All right, Councilmember Gardner.
Okay, first of all, I think it's an excellent idea in principle, and I like the report that was done by the staff, so I'm completely in favor in going that route. As a matter of fact, I think to some extent we may expand that, and we may find that that's a useful route for us to do, handling the citations for feeding wildlife. So I'm fully in favor of the program. 2 things concern me. The one is the 10% per day interest. I'm as punitive as anybody else, but it seems to me 10% per day That just seems very, very high. And maybe it's a typo for... and the other thing I'm concerned about is I'm not sure that the ordinance describes how the city is going to choose to use this process or not. Seems to be no rhyme or reason for the choice of using this versus doing the other system. And so I'm just pointing that out. I don't object to that, but I would have preferred a little more rationale for this will be used in these kinds of cases, but in other cases they won't. But I am concerned about the 10% per day, and I think that needs to be changed.
Okay. Staff have any comment with respect to those?
Mayor, members of the council, it's not a typo. We worked with the city attorney's office in preparing this ordinance, and we did pattern it after the industry standard. So this is the prevailing approach, although totally within the council's discretion. At this point, though, good to remember, the violator has been issued a courtesy notice, which would provide at minimum a 30-day cure period, and then has received their first monetary citation. So they would have, of course, received due notice that they're in violation of the municipal code and would have been given an opportunity to correct that violation. So the interest penalty, I guess, is in the council's discretion. If it's viewed as overly punitive, then it can be reduced. It certainly exceeds our current cost of funds. That's granted. With regard to the second point about how it would be implemented, if I understand the question, in terms of when we would elect in the field to issue an administrative citation versus pursue another enforcement option, we would use the same process we currently use with the tools we have available to us, which are more than one, which is an analysis that looks at the severity of the violation, the likelihood that we could achieve compliance through voluntary means, and that involves considerable collaboration with the city attorney's office. If we ultimately have to pursue an official enforcement option, we always choose the one that we think is the most efficient and cost-effective and treats all parties as fair as possible, trying to balance the violator's rights to due process to the party who's being infringed upon by the violation. And as we mentioned in our initial report, we actually received more calls for service and complaint from those that are being infringed upon by the violation than those that are actually committing them. So we did look at that pretty carefully, and when we talk to other cities, what we typically find is the administrative citation is principally used for property code violations where there's a known violator, there's the ability to make a correction in a timely fashion, where there's, again, we've been given, the violator's been given ample notice to correct the violation, and the citation is viewed as less punitive and hopefully more effective than initiating a criminal proceeding or a civil proceeding, which, as we mentioned, the report can be oftentimes very protracted and very costly.
Okay, yeah, and again, I think 10% per day, many times these people may be in trouble either financially or their health, and so at that point that that they've had a $100, $200, $500, then we've doubled it with the penalty because they haven't paid in 60 days. It just seems like we're whipping a dead dog there to then go ahead 10% per day. So it may be the custom, but to me it seems punitive. And these are our citizens, even if they've gone a little bit astray in the violations.
Councilmember Voights.
Yes, Mr. Belmer. So you're saying that before the penalty of actually a citation, a penalty, a cash penalty, there's a 30-day grace period. They would be so warned that they're out of compliance?
That's correct.
And so before we even talk about a penalty at all, not mind the 10%, there would be a grace period of 30 days for them to clarify that?
At a minimum. Yeah, what city manager was reminding me that the abatement schedules are set by the city, given the unique circumstances involved with the violation. So if we have a situation that requires more than 30 days, when I say at a minimum, we provide that.
right. We're at a second reading here. I think I mentioned this when this passed, or when we passed the first reading 2 weeks ago. But in my mind, number one, this is going to save the city money because we're going to be pulling away from some of our legal expenses and providing this administrative citation remedy. Number two, I think this is going to actually give the violators an easier route to go to comply. They're not going to have to go through legal proceedings and so forth, which can be, I think, as you mentioned, extremely costly, very, very time intensive for sure. And then there's an appeals process as well through administrative hearings, I understand it. And then if I understand further that this could end up going through that appeals hearing process and then also end up in court as well down the road. Is that correct, Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so if they really went that route, and I look at it as what we all really want to do is try to solve the problems at the get-go. We don't want to issue citations. We'd prefer that when issues that are affecting the community are and someone's in violation, that we can help with some corrective action as much as possible. I think this is actually going to be much less stringent than we have today. So it's I'm urging that we do continue to pass this, and if we want to look at some of those other things down the road, be more than happy to. But I'm just not sure that at this point I really want to make a change, because if we make a substantive change like that, we're going to go back to a first reading again and so forth. Correct? So okay, so I'm just going to move that we move forward with the recommended action of approving the second reading of the ordinance.
And I'll second that and make a statement that this gives the staff an opportunity, another instrument to try to bring compliance. And so I think it's a good thing. So with that, I make the second.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just one more comment. I'm more inclined to go ahead and proceed with that caveat that maybe we come back at a later time, and I don't know, the section right before that, the fine is doubled as a late penalty and becomes due immediately if unpaid for 60 days. So there might be opportunities to look at it again, but I think because of the interest of time and having to start all over, I think I'm willing to move forward here too.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick. Okay. Councilmember Gardner.
The danger of putting it in the stack is that it will never come out. So that, even though I agree there's some extra time putting it back in and taking it out, I just see it getting lost and not coming back, so we miss the opportunity.
Well, if there's consensus to bring it back, then the staff will definitely bring it back. I look at this as it's less stringent than what's currently in place. So if we just don't do anything, then we're actually making it more harsh for the violators in my mind, and also driving up our legal costs. So that's why I made the motion that I think that we should just move forward, and then we can bring it back. So it seems like there's consensus of at least two to bring that portion back. So yeah.
Mr. Mayor, in terms of understanding the true impact of that, you could bring it back sooner, but we might make a suggestion that we give this a little bit of time and see how it actually does work, so you'll have some data by which to look at how, in fact, we have issued administrative citations, how many have actually gone to a penalty of that nature. So my suggestion is that we bring it back, not immediately, but we bring it back with some experience behind the program, and we'd be able to give you a better idea of what it's doing.
That makes absolute sense to me, because we want to see, it's possible that just based on this new process that we'll have very few of those, and we'll be able to analyze that data much better. So what seems like a reasonable amount of time so that everyone feels comfortable with bringing it back? Are we talking 6 months, 12 months?
Mr. Mayor, I believe we'd recommend 6 months from the effective date of the ordinance, so it's not effective for 30 days, so the program doesn't go into effect. So give us 60 days after implementation, then we'd put that issue back on your agenda.
Okay. Does that seem fair to my colleagues here? Okay. All right. So there's a motion and a second to approve the item, and then there's been clear direction on bringing this back 6 months from the implementation date of the ordinance. So to take a look at those items in question. So with that said, council members, cast your votes. And the item passes unanimously. I think that Brings us to item 14.
Agenda item 14, contract award for tree management services submitted by Public Works Director, City Engineer, and removed from the consent calendar by a member of the public. Pat Mahoney?
If you just state your name and the city you live in.
Okay, my name is Pat Mahoney. I'm the president of West Coast Arborists. I live in the city of Anaheim. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this item tonight. You know, we've been the city contractor for many years now, contracting with you to trim the trees. And first thing I want to do is thank you for that business. We really appreciate it, and we think it's been a great partnership. We currently do work for 220 cities in California, 21 cities in Orange County, and the County of Orange. We manage the city. We have managed the city of Lake Forest contract on our 10-acre site on Bake Parkway, Bake and Irvine Center. We have a wood facility, and we park all our equipment there. Our contract ended this year. It was a $165,000 contract a year to trim 3,000 trees. It's about $48 a tree average. I'm here tonight to ask you to reconsider awarding the contract tonight because I have several reasons. One, the bid that's there is a total unbalanced bid. I'll go into that in a second where it was unbalanced. It's unbalanced for the second time. The second part of it is that it required a tree maintenance software to manage the city's tree inventory that we had the first time when we were working, the city had allowed us to use our tree management software program, Arbor Access. It came out for bid the first time, and at that time when it came out, you were allowed to use an alternative to the city's, what they were using was Tree Pro, but it wasn't listed in the bid to use that. So when it went out for bid the first time in January of 2014, there were two bids that were received. At the time when we looked at it, we realized that the bids that were received, the bid from Great Scott, the units that had higher the quantities that would never be done, they bid $1 a tree on those. And for the bigger removals, that they had large quantities that wouldn't be done, they bid $9 a tree to remove those larger trees. At that time, if it were put into, we brought it to the council at that time, if it were put into the quantities that were really being done, we would have been considerably lower. The city decided to put it back out for bid and restructure the package. But at that time, they came back and said, you had to have this program, Arbor Pro. We contacted Arbor Pro many times. We were not able to. Arbor Pro was really like a system that wasn't available to us. So we contacted the city engineer and said, we want to be able to use an alternative program, that software, which we have the software, we have about 2,000 users, and the city has a database, and the database is all the trees, and from all those the trees that are in those files, then the software program allows you to manipulate those records, and the Arbor Pro is one. We have our own that's Arbor Access.
I'm sorry, if you could just wrap it up. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm asking that you reconsider it on the fact that we were higher due to the fact that we couldn't use our software, and the bids that came in were way unbalanced. So I thank you again. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Very brief.
This may be, but as reading the agenda item, there's a big discrepancy in prices. There was maybe some confusion or something. We had this once before, but you came back almost double what the other people were. So
we originally offered to renew it at the same $161,000. When it came back, we couldn't do the job because we couldn't use the Arbor Pro. So for that, we bid it at a position.
But did you inventory our trees with a different program prior to this bid process?
We didn't. The city trees are inventory, so you have those records. we had those records in our software program. And as we maintained the trees, we updated those records within the system.
So was there a confusion because from $300,000 to almost nearly $600,000, there was some kind of confusion?
Well, the bids, we think that the small tree items, we didn't do any of the small tree. All the landscape contractors did those. The larger items, you don't have any of those items, so when they bid $1, if you bid what a 30-inch tree to remove should be about $1,000. But really threw the bid off, and it makes it what I think is an unbalanced bid. But that's not, the reason is that the Arbor Pro software was the only thing that was allowed, and there wasn't an alternative that there was when we were doing the job or the first time it was bid. And there was a change of staff when it came back around, and somehow our software wasn't allowed. But really we're there to trim trees. It's not the software, but it was just a requirement. A lot of these things that were put in there, it kind of kept us out of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from the council?
I have a comment. If I want to thank staff again for their hard work on, reading the staff report. I think there was a RFP and then it came back to the bid. So I know that you're working hard on this item to date. One of the things I, campaign on and have experience in some of my public service is being a steward of the city's funds and also the services that we provide. So my experience is to try to obtain the best price, quality service from vendors. I know that's the same goal that city staff has, and I think my experience shows maybe a little bit these two items maybe above the standard procurement processes. First is casting a wide net to obtain a reasonable amount of qualified bidders, and then second, having a steady vendor outreach to ensure a healthy number of bids or proposals, whichever case it is, and identifying issues along the way. This ensures good bids, good proposals, and a well-defined scope of work. So I'm uncomfortable with the wide variation that we had, and I'm not saying that it's could have just been a miscommunication between all the parties, and with especially the low quantity of bids, I'm not comfortable voting yes on this item, so I'm going to be voting no. And I think there is some, maybe, we heard one of the bidders here, and I'm not wanting to take sides on that item. I'm not sure. Again, just not taking sides. And I want to again thank staff for their hard work on this. I know that they're doing a great job, and on both the proposal and the bid process. So that's all I have. Oh, I was going to say one thing. I did a little math, and if it went up from the 3,000, it was about 165, to 3,000 trees to 4,000 trees, it would be about $223,000. One other thing I was going to mention too, I called the city of Irvine, and they did get 2 or 3 other bids on their tree management services contract. Some of the ones that, in addition to the Great Scott and West Coast Arborists, they had B&J Tree Service and Valley Crest. And I'm not saying anything about those other vendors. I'm just saying it was possible to get more than just 2.
All right. Any other questions from council?
And if we vote no tonight, will that just continue the process and then there'll be a new RFP? Would that be the,
it's a question for the staff here, so.
Mr. Members of the Council, I'll defer to Mr. Wheeler about what we would do in the interim, but I guess we would seek council direction if you'd want to see a new RFP. What sort of elements would you want to be changed in that RFP? I think we'd have to have some idea of what it is that we'd be doing to go back out to bid. And consequently, I'll ask Mr. Wheeler, though, we currently are looking to have trees trimmed at a certain schedule, so if you'd like to respond to when you think the service would really be required in terms of scheduling for us, but also maybe addressing some of the issues. I know that we did cast a net out there, and if you've contacted some of the other vendors as to why perhaps they did not bid on this project, would be helpful, I think, in light of Councilmember Hamilton's comments, and as it relates to the Tree Pro, or Arbor Pro, I guess, software and the requirement for that.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, and honorable council members. Staff has done this two different processes. The first one, like we talked about, was a qualifications-based selection process. During that process, Great Scott Tree was the selected and preferred vendor by staff. Unfortunately, both firms at that time were higher than the budget. We started to negotiate to get down within our budget limits. At that time, I felt that just manipulated and changed too many of the quantities to make it. We wanted to avoid the appearance of doing anything like that. West Coast had mentioned that perhaps if you move some of the numbers around in a certain way, they could become the low bidder. That wasn't staff's analysis. However, you could move things around. So in order to avoid that, we brought that back to council. We went with a low bid. Again, West Coast Arbor was, their bid actually went higher than during the RFP process. And Great Scott was again at this time the low bid. So staff followed the process that the council has. In fact, we went a little beyond that process. We specifically contacted 16 local contractors, emailed them, and notified them that we have this project out to bid. This is a specialized service. You'd really have to look into what exactly the scope of work is to determine why Irvine got 3 or 4 bids versus us. We haven't done that to compare other cities. But we did receive the 2 bids. We thought we were working with another vendor. We thought we'd get a 3rd bid. They had a number of questions during the bid process up until the bid. We thought we were going to get the 3 bids. So I totally agree with Councilmember Hamilton. You want as many bids as possible, as often as possible. And in this case, we got 2. We thought we would have 3 that showed great interest. So we received those 2 bids, followed our process. Certainly, Great Scott is a reputable firm. It's a very good, aggressive bid. It's within our budget, and also it was within our estimate what we thought it would be. We followed our process. We selected them twice. This contract is only for a 6-month period. It's renewable for 2 additional years. Because of the process, we've postponed all of our trimming through the summer, so we still have time to get it done, what we want to do. But I would, if it were my recommendation, would go forward with this so we have somebody on board to be able to take care of the trees in any emergency, those sorts of things that we want to have online. We can reassess it and see if, in fact, how they do, it'll come back to council in 6 months for either renewal, or council can decide for us to go out to bid again or go with an RFP process at that time. If I can ask, Dennis Jew was our project manager, but I believe the Arbor Pro license and the bidding was, I want to say in the range of maybe $20,000, if I recall correctly. So it is no material. The difference in these 2 bids is $320,000. So I don't think that has a number value in really throwing off the bids to any great extent.
Councilmember Voights.
I think that because of the discrepancy in price, I'm a little nervous on the parameters, whether we excluded ourselves from a wider net casting because of the new software that we're requiring upon these arborists. Is maybe an inclination that maybe that program was a detriment to us catching or receiving more bids in. And the fact is that if it was $320,000, that's no chump change. And so there's some kind of calculation problem here, whether it be West Coast or Great Scott. And no pun on the name. I'm very fond of the name, but I'm concerned about the price discrepancy. and whether we actually have apples for apples or we got oranges for apples.
Well, as you know, in a competitive environment, we have no control, obviously, on how they choose to price their bids and their work. It's interesting in this particular case, when we went with the RFP process back previously to this process, West Coast Arborists had requested views, so Public Records requested to get the bids and the pricing from both parties. So both parties knew each other's pricing going into the bid environment. Not to say that they're locked into that, but information was out on the table. After that, even though we reduced the number of trees in order to cut down on the budget, Great Scott's bid moved down accordingly. West Coast bid actually went up. Again, those are business decisions that we're not privy to, why they do that and how they do those sorts of bids. But the bid that we did receive certainly meets what we would expect. Great Scott has spent a great amount of time in the city. They do work in the city. They're moving some of their business into the Great Park, so they're closer to the city. They feel very confident they can do the work at the price shown. And for those reasons, staff supports it. If we were to go out to bid again, I'm just not sure if why we would get any different results than we already have, and then we're missing the opportunity to trim the trees.
I'm sorry, but I do have one more question. We're all very proud of the new sports park that we just got completed, but in that sports park, if I recall, there's 2,000 new trees in that sports park. Is that included in this bid? Are they, whoever this contract is going to be accepted by, are they trimming the trees in the sports park too?
No, the trees in the sports park won't need trimming for some time.
Okay. But he mentioned that his former bid on taking care of the trees was $165,000, and in our budget it says $260,000 in our budget. What was the increase of $100,000 for the trimming of our trees right now?
So the last contract we had, he mentioned, was $165,000. Yeah. We added more trees, and we also increased the frequency of the trimming to just improve the health of the natural forest that we have.
In the testimony of the speaker, he said he initially came in at $165,000, but then is that
No, that was the last previous contract.
Okay.
This new bid was $581,000. So that was a much bigger jump than we would anticipate. The Great Scott bid was more within the realm that we would expect.
City Attorney, am I privileged to in January this RFP or the request for proposal went out? What were the prices at that time?
Oh, I don't know the incumbent contract. Oh yeah, we can.
The numbers of the price that was there in January.
It's the incumbent contract price.
I'll ask our deputy city engineer, Dennis Jew, if he has that information. They were similar.
During the RFP process, Mayor and City Council members, the Great Scott was about $350,000 in the RFP, and West Coast Arborists is $481,000.
Okay. Any further comments or?
Yeah,
questions?
just one more question. I think I heard one of the vendors, West Coast Arborists, say something about they would be willing to do it for the $165,000 that they had under the previous contract. That seems like the lower amount. Did the scope change? Is that kind of what you're saying? Because I actually talked to the gentleman who spoke, Pat, and it kind of sounded like to me that the software, it's not just the software, it's the training, they're having to kind of relearn a whole system, and so I'm not sure if it's just the cost of the software. I don't know if, I think in just an analogy in my mind, I think it was something like a Google Docs versus a Microsoft Office kind of a thing, and, you kind of have to relearn the other one, and, it's not just the cost of the software. I guess I have two questions in there.
Yeah, I don't believe the software is the issue here. I believe the software, the current contract or the previous contract that they had required the Arbor Pro. That was a bone of contention with updating that. We would accept and certainly can accept approved equal software. That's really not an issue in the bidding. What's important to us is our database and keeping it updated, and so we understand what we have in the urban forest and in our database history.
And then was there a scope change?
Yes. So
from the old contract?
Backing up, so by council policy and our purchasing guidelines, we go out to bid every 3 to 5 years when the contracts expire. I don't recall, it may have even happened before I came here, him actually offering to continue the contract at the current price. That, regardless of whether he did or not, is immaterial because we brought that back to council. The contract had expired, and we go out to bid every few years. So yes, the scope changed. The contract expired. So whether or not they offered it was, immaterial at that point in time.
By the way, thank you for all your work on this.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, just trying to figure out what we're going to do here. I look at this as something that's important for us to do in the community. We've got a lot of trees. We've got actually about 4,000 that need to be maintained. We're looking at there's a lot of questions up here right now. So what seems to make the most sense to me is that we move forward with the recommendation that we have now, but probably rather than making an assumption that we're going to be considering 2-year extensions, that we make the assumption at this point that we want to try to figure out how to build some parameters to either go out for bid or put an RFP together. So that's the motion that I'm making. Seems to make the most sense to me, because my concern is that if we do nothing tonight, am I correct that we don't have a tree maintenance service contract right now with anyone? So we want to make sure that we maintain something. I know that we're probably in the time of year where it's most advantageous to do that, right? There are other times of the year where you don't want to be doing that for fire or health of plants issues and so forth. So that'd be my recommendation. That's my motion at this point, that we move forward with 6 month, and then we just work off the assumption that we're going to go out for bid or RFP 6 months from now, and then try to define some parameters. So we might want to have a meeting sometime in the next 3 months to figure out how we would do it differently, because I'm hearing from some of my colleagues that they want to see more bidders, they want to see more of this, more of that. It appears that there may be really some confusion with what this RFP was. That's why we moved to the bid, and this wide variation in numbers suggests to me that there's some confusion about what the service is actually being provided here. So
I'll second.
It's a motion and a second there. Discussion.
I'd like to bring for discussion. Would it not West Coast be a qualified provider of tree service in the meantime, because they're doing our trees now?
No, that contract's expired several months ago.
So we could put an extension on it if they would be so willing. We did it with Waste Management as we were waiting for CR&R to be. So it's not outside the norm.
Well, that might want to go to the city attorney there. The contract's expired, so I'm guessing.
Yeah, that request could be made, but I have no idea what the outcome would be.
Okay. All right.
Well, he's here. We can ask him.
Well, at this point, I don't feel like this is the forum to be going back and forth. We don't have both of the businesses here, so I think that, again, my motion, I've got a second so far, so if there's a substitute motion, feel free, but my motion is that we just move forward with what we have in front of us today, and then let's just try to define the parameters and 6 months gives us all some time to try to figure this out a little bit better, and we'll go from there. So there's a motion and a second. So any further discussion on the item?
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Okay, substitute motion.
That we possibly keep West Coast, they have the trees inventoried already. Instead of putting this all into the process of inventorying and putting it into the new program with Great Scott, West Coast has an inventory on their own program right now to do it in a way we prepare the RFP to go out in 3 months. So that would be my substitute motion, and see if they'd be willing to do, they've offered to come on and stay on. So that would be my substitute motion.
I will second that, and I just want to comment that Mr. Voight is correct. That is exactly what we did several months ago when it came to the trash contract. We extended it for a couple of months, a few months, however long it took for us to have, at least I believe we got at least 2 bids. This is not different. It is certainly not materially different. And I also, I cannot articulate any more competently than Mr. Hamilton did. He said it. He said it very, very well. I think we got to go back and redo this in time. And if we can. And the gentleman is here right now, so we can decide right now, and there's nothing illegal about that. We can maybe extend our existing contract. Well, it expired a short while ago, but maybe we can renew that just for a very, very short period of time, just so we have enough competent data on which to form a sound decision. I just don't think we have everything it takes to form a good decision tonight. So with all that, I second Mr. Voight's motion.
Could I offer a friendly amendment to the alternate motion? At or below the same price per unit.
Greatly said. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. Yes, and I second that.
Okay. Well, there's a substitute motion, so I mean at this point, the last thing that I want to do is be having negotiation. I mean, I appreciate your being here, knowing that we might go this direction. I feel like Great Scott would also want to be here and be part of this discussion. Out of all fairness, I mean, I would say that what probably makes the most sense would be to at least postpone this for a couple weeks and let staff talk with the parties rather than trying to negotiate something from here into the audience. But
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I would concur. I'm not sure if Great Scott is here, but it might be a bit uncomfortable moving forward without their knowledge of what we're doing at this juncture, so it may be best to discontinue the item for 2 weeks and allow both firms. But again, I would recommend that the council not negotiate from the dais. That's ordinarily not a good strategy that we would ever entertain in the past. I would not recommend that you do it now.
In that case, if I may, Your Honor, in that case, I make a third motion, which I believe by law needs to be heard first now. I'll make a motion. I'll move for us to pick this up 2 weeks from tonight with all the parameters indicated by my colleagues and myself. Thank you.
Second.
And just to clarify, we're not continuing this item. You're not wanting to continue this item. You're wanting it to, because I think continuing it would be then we'd have the same exact staff report. We want to start all over. Is that my understanding of what you're saying?
Mr. Danik, will you be so kind?
It would simply be the same report coming back to you, but with the comments that I think the council has made are duly noted, and so we would discuss both of those with both vendors and supplying the additional new information that I think was pertinent to that over that 2-week period. If for some reason given the holidays, our inability to make that round, then we'd put it on the first opportunity thereafter. But I don't believe that we could craft a new RFP in 2 weeks and make that work. So it would be awfully difficult to do that.
Would that be satisfactory?
So just to clarify, you're wanting to continue the item?
Continue the item with the parameters Mr. Dunick articulated. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my concerns, I have a couple of concerns. One is this is prime time in terms of many trees. This is the ideal time to be trimming them. So if we could reach a decision in 2 weeks, 2 weeks probably doesn't make a difference. But if we can't, then it's 5 and 6 weeks, and then we're missing a good opportunity. And I'm not sure what it is we're asking. I'm not sure. Are we asking the companies to come back and give us a full RFP, or are we asking them to do a 3-month interim while we redo the RFP? So what exactly are they going to come back with in 2 weeks that's going to make a difference that we can make a decision 2 weeks from today?
Well, I think there were substitute motions. I mean, I'm looking at this as someone was trying to piggyback off of what my initial motion was, in that we just look at a 6-month and then look at a longer term with this. Don't make the assumption. I mean, we could we could switch in 6 months regardless, but not work off the assumption that we're potentially going to go with whatever incumbent company ends up getting the short-term part, but we work off the assumption that, hey, we want to try to take a much more weighty look at this, try to figure out how we'd get more bids, if that's even possible, try to discuss how we would give staff some direction to come to that point. So that's how I viewed it, but again, that's not necessarily clear. That's just how I viewed it. So I'm not really exactly sure where these substitute motions are, other than what they've actually stated word for word, literally. So.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
2 weeks, what decision would we be looking to make in 2 weeks?
Well,
would it be for the 3-month fill-in and a new RFP? Would it be for the 6-month?
The 6 months initially.
The way I viewed it as the 6-month, but the maker of the motion, I guess, at this point is going to have to clarify that.
I am hoping in 2 weeks we'll come back, we'll have both vendors here, and we would entertain possibly extending the contract that expired a short while back for a very short period of time, at the expiration of which time we will award the contract permanently. Well, not permanently, but we will award the contract for a longer period of time, whether 6 months or 2 years or 3 years.
All right.
Mr. Members of the Council, the agenda item doesn't include an extension of the contract that expired. That's something different at this juncture.
Okay. Councilmember.
The initial substitute motion was to allow West Coast to continue this first 6 months interim phase, which he's already so we're awarding the contract out. But I'm not willing to take the bid in, as with the discrepancy of money that was involved here. I think there was a clear-cut confusion in the bidding process.
Well, Mr. Members of the Council, I guess staff would need some direction, at least I would. I'm not sure about Mr. Wheeler, but we're extending the contract with what parameters, how many trees, what's the protocol that we're going to be using? Are we going to be trimming the additional trees that were required in this bid process, or so that the old number that was in that previous contract would be honored? Because it would strike me that the unit prices would have to be prevailing, and if we're asking for more trees to be trimmed, you're not really extending it at the same amount, at least in aggregate, that previous contract had. So you'd be negotiating an extension of a contract, presumably with the old unit numbers, but realize that total contract is going to be more money than what you had previously. So again, that's a little bit problematic, but I guess we need clear direction as to what the council would want us to try to do, is to negotiate with the other vendor at this juncture, or negotiate with both vendors, or what's your pleasure?
Well, the fact is, per Article 3 of the contract, it says that the city manager may approve additional work not to exceed 10% of the contract totaling amount of $25,000. So that was the parameter that's set forth, that we still have, it's in the contract. So he can go.
I understand that, Councilmember Voice, but the contract's expired.
But so is the contract, so the contract we expire with to hire with the new contractor is a new contract. So whether we accept the West Coast or we accept Scott for 6 months.
Just to clarify what you're saying, are you saying like the waste management expired and we renewed that? Is that what you're...
That's what we did with waste management.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
No, we extended that contract before it expired.
yeah. So this, in this case, am I correct, the contract expired, 5-6 months ago? Shorter?
Probably longer.
Longer? Okay. All right, so it's been quite a while. And, again, I mean, I think the concern here is that, and it sounds like Councilmember Gardner shares my concern, that we're in this prime time here. So it might be, really bad timing that we're dealing with this. But what seems to make sense, and again, my original motion was that we would just stick with what's being recommended here and then work off the premise that we want to try to look at this in a much more significant way, try to figure out how we can get three bidders or more, if possible, and then also try to understand where the confusion was lying with the 2 bidders that we had that caused that wide variation in costs, because it seems like something really wasn't clear there when it's that significantly different. But I could be wrong. That's just, when I was looking at it, that's what made the most sense to me, was that somebody just didn't get it. And, we've had that one other time, I think, happened last year with the IT one. So, and so I'm not sure exactly where the challenge is, but, I mean, I'm still advocating for my original motion. But what we have right now is a motion to continue the item to 2 weeks so that staff can talk with the 2 vendors. I don't know if there's enough direction there or not, or if you need more from the maker of the motion.
What we'll try to do is talk to the 2 vendors, and I suppose based on the comments that we've heard, try to provide additional information, but the basic report would be the same that you have before you, unless we're receiving contrary direction by council.
Is that clear to you?
It is. It was clear to me back then, a few minutes ago, too. Mr. Donick, does the staff need direction at this point to negotiate the, I don't want to say reviving, but I realize the contract expired a few months ago, but does the staff need direction so that the staff can speak with the then current provider for a couple of months of continued services? Does the staff need that direction at the moment?
If I could, just a minute, I think I want to converse with the city attorney, but let's all remember that we do not have a current provider. That contract expired many months ago. So that's part of the problem, I think, that we're experiencing here. So hold on just a minute. Let me talk to the attorney.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It may seem like a long discussion. On the other hand, it is Lake Forest. So forest is important, and it's for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute recess here. So if you guys need to go grab a drink or whatever. right, I'm going to bring the meeting back to order. Mr. City Attorney, City Manager, was there anything that you wanted to mention just before we get started here again?
Mr. Member, City Council, the City Attorney and I and his colleague discussed a number of possibilities. However, we do not feel comfortable in going through what we believe might be all of the options that the council may have without vetting them a little bit further. So our recommendation is that the City Council continue this item for 2 weeks. We will take into consideration the things that we've heard here this evening, and that the staff would, in fact, explore options that we believe might be viable for the council to go forward with at this juncture. So I think our recommendation is exactly what was, I think, articulated before the break.
All right. So that sounds like your motion. Is that correct?
That is precisely my motion, correct, Mr. Dunick?
Yes, sir, I believe it was.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So
I renew my motion, if I may.
okay, and did we have a second on that? I don't recall, but we did. Okay.
We did, Councilman Voight.
Councilman Voight. So, okay.
If I may ask a question?
Yes.
And why would we believe in 2 weeks we'll be in a better shape to make a decision than we are tonight?
Mr. Member, members of the City Council, what we would be able to do is to provide the council what we believe your options would be based on the conversation that we're hearing this evening. Your ability to make a decision between these two vendors at this juncture is a bit problematic because you do not have one here that is actually the recommended vendor. We think they need the opportunity to be able to provide some answers relative to the same issues. It may make it more clear to you what it is that they're able to do, and I would say fundamental misunderstandings could possibly be clarified. I couldn't guarantee that any of it in 2 weeks is going to be more clear to you, but we do believe we'll have options that the council will be able to act upon with knowledge rather than, to a certain degree, I guess, freewheeling it here at this juncture.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So with
And just a quick comment. Just, I think my intent was just, being a good steward of the money of the city, the public funds, saving money on this. And I agree with the urgency, Councilmember Gardner, Mayor Robinson, for swift action. So,
all right. So motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Nick. Seeing no further discussion, we'll take a vote on that, just basically continuing the item and all the specifics that have been laid out. Continuance, the item passes 4-1 with Councilmember Gardner opposed. And I have to get my City Clerk and I get our bearings back, but I think that's going to bring us to item 15. Am I right? No, item 18, sorry. 18.
Agenda item 18, consideration of revised standard contract templates submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services, and removed from the consent calendar by Councilmember Gardner.
Councilman Gardner.
Mr. Mayor, it's a terrific job, a monumental job, putting all that together. I'm so pleased that you did that. You have under your packet something called item 18, which is, in addition, I would like to make to the contract templates. In discussions with Mr. Smith, the city attorney, he indicates that there are more issues involved in passing a section like this than he's aware of to give us, complete advice right now. So he's recommended that he do some homework before something like this, would come back for our consideration. So I just wanted to bring up the fact that this is something I would have liked to have seen in it, but Mr. Smith is going to do some background research to show what are the issues involved in doing this.
Okay.
So with that, we can go ahead and move the item.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. Thank you very much for sharing your comments with respect to this.
Mayor, just to clarify, thank you, Councilmember Garner, for that. This idea, Councilmember Garner was kind enough to vet with me over the weekend, and it relates to a limitation on contributions between contractors or potential contractors and council members. And that, as you know, has some First Amendment ramifications that we'd want to be able to research before you included it. So thank you for giving us the nod in terms of time to do that. Just wanted to, either now or later, make sure that the council gave us that direction, if that was part of the motion or a separate motion coming, so we were clear whether you gave us that launch or not to go to the library on that.
I was going to bring that up in council
I beg your
comments.
pardon. That's entirely appropriate then, so I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget to think about it.
Great. Okay, thanks. So seeing no further discussion on the item.
Actually, I have just one more.
Okay, Councilmember.
Just a little, so are we going to pass it with the...
No.
We're continuing it?
No, we're going to pass the agenda item as it is. Well, there needs to be a motion in a second, but right now, so.
And then we'll talk about the add-on later.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
All right.
So, later date, so. But, council members, cast your votes on item 18. Passes unanimously. Now, bring us to our one discussion action item for the evening.
Agenda item 19, Second Amendment to Agreement with Lilly Planning Group for EnerGov Migration Project Management, submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Council, I'll turn it over to Deborah Rose for a presentation on this item.
Okay, Mayor and members of the City Council, tonight I'm going to present an update on the EnerGov 9 Data Migration and Upgrade Project and talk to you about some proposed next steps for the project. So EnerGov is the city's planning, permitting, and code enforcement and inspection software. And it's referred to as enterprise software because it's used by multiple departments within the city. Prior to purchasing EnerGov in 2009, all of this was managed with a paper process. But as the city became more sophisticated and more building activity occurred, we realized that our paper process would be overwhelmed, and so we moved toward automating it. In October of 2013, the council approved the EnerGov project as part of the 5-year strategic plan. And to move forward with the project, the council approved an agreement with Tyler Technologies. They're the publisher of the EnerGov software, and an agreement for project management and implementation with the Lilly Planning Group. And that those services were funded by salary savings from a vacant city position, and that city position was the former system administrator of this project. So why we needed to migrate from EnerGov 8 to EnerGov 9. In 2012, Tyler announced that they would no longer support EnerGov 8, meaning there would be no further system upgrades or enhancements or any training in that system, making it a legacy system. And one of the things we want to avoid in our IT program is having legacy systems because they're much harder to maintain and they really limit what the staff is able to do. And so we looked toward moving to EnerGov 9, which would solve some other issues that we had with the software. EnerGov 8 was not a web-based application, and so it had very limited offerings for the public to be able to do things online. It also had limited mobile capabilities, and so it didn't allow for our field staff to get as much use out of it as we'd hoped when we initiated the project. And also, reporting was rather difficult, and I'll talk about that in a later slide. So we started our project, and it was divided into 5 stages. And in our first stage, we documented our key workflows, which are called key processes, and those are those green boxes you see on that chart. And what we found when we were documenting all of our processes is that a lot of our processes were no longer matching the way the software had been configured in 2009. And what we found was that over the past several years, we had worked very hard in streamlining our processes. And we worked a lot on having departments work together and increase their communications and so forth to support the upcoming increase in building activity that we expected to see through the OSA. And so through moving through this project, we were able to capture those and eliminate a lot of those yellow arrows that you're seeing there. What those yellow arrows represent are all of the things we had to manage outside of the EnerGov system because it wasn't configured to reflect our current practices. So what we've accomplished through stages 2 through 4 of this project is we streamlined our planning and our permitting workflow. And so we've consolidated many things and we've made management much easier. We've reconfigured our planning and our water quality division workflows. And we've developed a business registration database and contacts tracking for our economic development staff. Previously, they used an EnerGov an Excel spreadsheet that was really complicated, and we kind of outgrew that. And so we've been able to move them into the database that resides in EnerGov. And we also configured final document upload so that records in EnerGov could go directly into our imaging system. So what we discovered along the way with our project, in relation to our constituents, we spent a lot of time talking to people who do business over the building counter. And what we found was that while many of them do use online services in other aspects of their business or in their personal life, they still want to come in and talk to us over the planning counter. And they want that initial contact when they're initiating their project. But as they move forward, they really would prefer to do more things online. And so things such as following up on permit inspections and so forth, for those simpler services, they are happy to do that online. We also found that applicants spend a significant amount of time on our building inspection phone system, especially when they're requesting multiple inspections. So we have our IVR system, which is our voice system where you apply for or you ask to schedule your building inspections, and that can take anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes to work through that phone system. And so for those with multiple inspections, it was really starting to be a time-intensive process. And we also found that 65% of all inspection requests were submitted by less than a dozen major commercial and residential builders. And so when we were rolling out our EnerGov system, we really prioritized where we thought we would get our biggest bang for our buck. And so we focused on deploying where our highest transactions were and our most frequent customers. And so we also identified areas where there would be further demand in the future. As far as our internal staff, we really focused a lot of our updates to eliminate duplicate data entry, and also, as I mentioned before, to reflect our current practices. So over the next 4 slides, I'm going to highlight some of the key project milestones that we've reached. So our first major accomplishment through stages 2 through 4 was implementing the system so that we have much easier access to data for reporting. Previously, all the reporting had to be managed through the system administrator, or we had to ask for special data imports from EnerGov. So all of that is accessible by staff, and we have a much better view into our operations. We're able to identify trends, and it's been very helpful to really look into how our operations are going through our building inspections, our code enforcement, our planning applications, and so forth. So an example of that is this report. I just want to briefly show it to you, but we were asked a question: how long does it take for the city to review and comment on a set of plans that are those that are beyond what can be approved just over the counter in one visit? So we queried the system and we pulled out our data, and we found between March and July of 2004, it took an average of a little over 5 days to turn around a set of plans. Something like that before in 8 would have taken probably a couple of days. It may have required, additional services to pull that data, but now this is something we can access in a couple of hours. Another major accomplishment in moving into stage 5 of the project is the launch of our elakeforest.com portal. And so this is active on our website. If you go to elakeforest.com, this is what you're going to see. And our users are able to go there and request their building inspections. They're able to view their permit and inspection status. They can apply for transportation permits, and they can apply for parking permits. And so along the left side of the screen, we have our staff information, because again, we did hear from constituents. They still like to talk to us, and so we want to make that very easy to do. So we have the contact names of who's working at the building counter on a given day, as long as contact information. But we've had a lot of success with this portal, and especially with those builders that have the most activity going on. They've been very happy with their ability to access some of these services. So this is an example of one of the services. Right now, if you're a resident and you live in a permit parking area, you need to access guest parking for when you have special events and you have people parking near your home. And so now that's something that can be done online. Once we establish an account for them, they can go online, input the date of their event, and then print out their guest parking passes. So we're saving someone a trip to City Hall there. Another major project accomplishment is providing full mobility for our building inspectors, our code enforcement officers, and our water quality team. So they are using iPads out in the field, and they're accessing EnerGov directly. So on the left-hand side is something that a building inspector or a code enforcement officer would look at, where they'd have a list of all their pending inspections, as well as a map of where they're all located. And they would also track their enforcement. That's what you're seeing on the right side of the screen. But they're able to access all of their data in the field, and they're able to input the results of their inspections in the field. And so what that does is it immediately makes it accessible for people in the office to find out what's going on with the inspections. And also the permittee can go online and find out whether they passed, whether they had a partial pass, or whether they need to request a reinspection. That's all done in real time. As well as we're eliminating duplicate data entry. So previously, all of that inspection activity was recorded by hand on paper. The inspectors would come back into the office, and then they would input all of that into the system. So we've reduced that time spent. So now that we've been using this for about 6 months, as I said, the project is divided into 5 stages. At this point, we're wrapping up stage 5. And so after using it for 6 months, we have a really good idea of what the system is able to do and what else we could have it do to further improve our services by offering more services to the community, as well as more opportunities to improve our internal processes. So what we are proposing is that the City Council consider a project stage 6. And so it would be comprised of 3 general areas. The first would be to expand our online services through our portal. And so what we're requesting is to configure 5 additional online permits. And those would be simple building permits that don't require additional submittals, such as a water heater or a repipe or a temporary banner permit. We're also looking to integrate a citywide credit card solution into elakeforest.com so people can pay for those online permits via a credit card online. We're also looking to configure our online business registration so businesses can directly input their information. Right now we do have an online form. That form gets submitted when businesses want to register, and so the staff receives it and they rekey all of it into our database. And so this would save that step, and it would also allow businesses just to actively update their own records. We'd also like to expand the configuration of some of our fees. We have over 700 fees combinations configured right now. They are the simpler fees. The OSA development fees are much more complex, and so we would like to have those configured into the system so that when large developers come in, we can use EnerGov to give the initial estimate of what those fees are going to be. Then those would be checked by the finance department. And we feel that this would be a better use of time and would also reduce some errors that potentially could happen in calculating and documenting those fees. We'd also like to just leverage what EnerGov can do and spread it to more areas of our operation. And so tonight, you have approved the administrative citation program. So we would like to do some additional configuration so that those citations can be tracked in EnerGov along with all the other code enforcement activity. We'd also like to include the annual water quality compliance reporting, and so all of the information that our water quality team is collecting, we'd like to configure EnerGov so they can automatically produce the reports they need for their annual compliance reporting. As well as we'd like to just configure a few more notifications and reports. The reports we're looking at are automated reports for when permits expire, so we can follow up with those people, follow up with the people that applied, and also automatic notifications. So right now with our business registration database, that database is being used by our water quality staff as well as our economic development staff. So we would like an automatic notification so when one of those shops creates a new business, the other shop, be it water quality or economic development, is automatically notified. So we can use the information to benefit multiple departments. So what we've requested tonight in your staff report is approval of a contract amendment with the Lilly Planning Group to provide additional project management and implementation services to implement Stage 6. We estimate this would take about 6 months, and it would also include the ongoing production support and system administration that they are currently providing. If the council was to approve this and would like to move forward with the Stage 6, it would require additional hours from Tyler Technology, and so we would come back at a future meeting with a contract amendment to add approximately $30,000 to their contract for some more professional services hours to do some of this configuration. So this concludes my report. I'd like to encourage everyone to visit elakeforest.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. And Glenn Park of Lilly Planning Group is here as well to answer any questions you may have about the project.
Great, thank you very much. Do we have any public comments on this item at all?
We've had no requests.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. Do you have any questions for our Deputy City Manager Rose or
Mayor?
Councilmember Voights?
I like what I'm seeing. I was just curious, how many other municipalities are you servicing in Orange County? Yeah, please.
Myself or...
your company.
Lilly Planning. Lilly Planning has been in service for over 15 years. They have serviced over 25 municipalities in all across California, primarily in Orange County.
Primarily, so 20 in Orange County?
Over 25. 25 municipalities. Specific numbers in Orange County, I can provide those.
No, I just was curious.
Okay.
In October 2013 we started?
That is correct.
That's correct. I have nothing.
Question for Deborah. Very nice report, by the way. Good job. In these kinds of projects, I get a little worried that we're a slave to a program. So 5 we're not so happy with, so for another 100,000 we're going to move to 6. And when we're not happy with 6, are we going to, keep going and there'll be another 100,000, another? So to what extent are we locked in ending up a slave to a system?
Okay, well, EnerGov is considered an enterprise system, and so generally enterprise systems have a shelf life of about 10 years. So we're 3 years into the project now. And so with Stage 6, we think that will be the last of our major new functionality that we would be putting into the system. At that point, we would move into a maintenance phase, and so there may be small upgrades along the line, like maybe another custom report later on, but I don't anticipate anything major that we would add to it for the next probably 3 years. And at that point, we would reassess again. The good thing now that Tyler Technologies has taken over EnerGov is they do really frequent system updates. And so I think we're less likely to see the need to do a full migration to another version. I think we'll be good with this version for at least 2 to 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, are the hard drives and everything here, or are they at Tyler Technologies?
Oh, sorry.
They are here in the City Hall. They are in the City Hall server room.
Okay. And may I just rephrase? It's not that we dislike the first 5, maybe, but maybe it's because we're having success and we want to move to Phase 6 and expand the program?
Yes, that's exactly right. We've had a lot of success with this. We've seen huge improvements to our operations.
Now, in your analysis of this, have you analyzed approximately how much staff time we're actually cutting away because of the high tech that we're able to do customer service through? So,
we haven't done really extensive analyses of that at this point, so I don't have specific numbers for you.
Any other further questions or comments? Okay. From my perspective, I have enterprise software in my own business, and I'm on version like 15 at this point, and it's an old system. It's probably close to 15 years old, so it's seen a new version every year, and that's not just the minor report tweaks and things like that. It's actual new versions, and it's incredibly important. Probably 10, 15 years ago, enterprise software started becoming a big buzzword, and a lot of big companies had a lot of problems implementing things like that, and there were major companies that were spending hundreds of millions of dollars just messing it up. So I'm glad that we have something in place. I'm glad that we're updating it. I see that it's actually saving us money, and this is everything that we talk about in government, that we're trying to accomplish as elected officials, helping streamline bureaucracy, not in a bad, not using that term in a bad way, and that's what this technology is helping us to do. So, I hope that we continue to spend more, because in my mind, that's going to help us save more. Speaking to Councilman Voigt's question there, I think at some point we would really like to see some analysis, but you need to have enough data that you can work from, and we just don't have enough at this point to be able to analyze that. But I would like to see us continue to look for technological solutions. Again, we're a contract city with very, very few employees, so the more efficient we can help our employees be by not having to retype reports that they handwrite in the field, or they type in the field but then they have to rewrite, or the business registration thing just there's an online form, it gets processed, but then you have to rekey it. It's just, that's exactly what we want, is to try to help streamline the operations here as best we possibly can. So, I'm supportive of continuing to spend more, because hopefully that means we're saving more. So, with that, I'll make a motion that we approve the second amendment to the agreement. So, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Not only does it make it more efficient here, but the fact is that the response that we're getting from the public, obviously, not having to come down to City Hall to get a permit, or to get your water heater, or getting small permits. I think that it's a great customer service for the community and the residents of Lake Forest.
I'll just pipe in too, Mr. Mayor. Enterprise software is really critical. I've been part of many implementations, SAP, PeopleSoft, Microsoft Dynamics, and multiple times on that one. So I really support this. Been through lots of efficiency projects, and this all sounds really good to me. So thank you.
Great. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, cast your vote on item 19. Motions to approve the recommended action. Item passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Rose. That brings to City Manager's report.
Nothing further this evening, Mr. Mayor.
And City Council comments. We start with Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. First of all, I'd like to thank the staff, who've all been very gracious in helping me get over the hump in fulfilling my council duties. So thank you, everyone. Number two, I'd like to get consensus on two issues. And one is, as we heard at the last meeting, and again, we even heard it tonight again, with the wildlife prohibition ordinance. I think we need to get that on the table, and so I'd like consensus for the staff to come back to us and, represent.
Could you clarify the wildlife ordinance for feeding of the animals?
Yeah, for the feeding of the animals, and I had rewritten it, and you have a copy here on the council comments. Originally, I know the council was worried that this was going to be something that was going to apply to all parks and was going to cause all kinds of problems, so I rewrote it so that it could just be implemented on a case-by-case basis and easily pulled off. But obviously, I'm not a lawyer, and so, I'd like Mr. Smith to review that and then come back to us and give us the issues.
I'd like to...
I think there's consensus on that to agendize the item for discussion.
Okay, and the other consent item I'd like to do is to again put Mr. Smith back to work and have him give us the issues involved in the relationship between freedom of speech and our ability to constrict the behavior of companies doing business with the city. So So I'd like consensus to allow Mr. Smith to go out and give us a report back on the current, this is the current state, and this is what we could or couldn't do if we were so interested.
Sure, I support that.
Okay, thank you. We've got consensus.
Mayor and Council, just to clarify, we'd be working off this idea with regard to contractors. Is that what, as opposed to a global analysis?
Yes. It's,
okay, thank you.
All right. Anything further?
It's all the work I have for Mr. Smith tonight.
Okay. And does that conclude your?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. And Councilmember Hamilton.
You know, I too want to thank staff tonight for their job tonight and great work, and also their assistance during my transition too. We're getting some much needed rain, and it really is raining money outside, because every time water comes from the sky, the Orange County Water District, who manages our groundwater basin, doesn't have to purchase surface water, imported water. So great news that it's raining. I also want to congratulate fellow council members Gardner and Voights for their re-election. I'm looking forward to working with each of you, all four of you here, the other four of you on the council, and I promise to be civil throughout the whole discourse from my end. So thanks again.
Councilmember Voights.
I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I want to thank the people once again of Lake Forest for the opportunity to serve them, and I want to congratulate again Councilman the Honorable Jim Gardner and Councilman the Honorable Andrew Hamilton, and nothing further.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
I thank everyone for being here tonight, for their participation. I thank the staff, Mr. Donick in particular, Mr. Smith, our city attorney in particular, my four colleagues on the dais. Good night.
Mayor, I forgot something. Can I chip in one last item? The STARS program are our seniors who help with police functions and save us hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're having their annual award banquet and Christmas party at the Beach and Tennis Club, Lake One Club, on December 4th, on Thursday night. No host social hour at 6 and the dinner at 7. I'd encourage you. They're really valuable and they're great people and they do us a great service. So if you're free, I would encourage you to come by for the dinner. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to that dinner because I'll be representing the city at Orange County Fire Authority. We have on the agenda hiring a new fire chief for the Orange County Fire Authority. So if we get out of there quickly, I will definitely make it down to the Beach and Tennis Club. I know that STARS are very beneficial to the community and great volunteers to the entire community. So right after our last meeting, a couple of days afterward, I had the pleasure of accepting an award on behalf of our Economic Development Department for our Grow in Lake Forest program. That's GROW stands for Growing and Retaining Our Workforce. As many of you may know or may not, right now we have 3.5% unemployment here in Lake Forest. So we've got a great number. We're beating the Orange County number, definitely the state of California number, and the national number. But that's exciting to know how the city is partnering with organizations as well as local businesses to try to help those businesses continue to grow and hire people. And so that's something that's been a big passion of mine. I was really hoping that we could get some recognition for our department. So that was the Orange County Business Council, and they call it the award. They call the award "Turning Red Tape into Roses," and that's exactly what we're trying to do as much as possible. We do that. We do a great job of that in this town, just on again limited staff here, trying to be as lean as we possibly can, but provide the best services we can for the community. So congratulations to the Economic Development Department, specifically our Assistant City Manager Dave Belmer and Jessica Gonzalez, our Economic Development Manager. And I'm hoping that we're going to have a public presentation that will come to one of our council meetings, either the next meeting or sometime in January. But that's a very prestigious award to win. So I also had the opportunity to attend a ribbon cutting for a new business here in town, right at Lake Forest and Muirlands. It's Java Bakery Cafe that just recently opened up. And so I encourage you to patronize that business, that whole center there. I think we might even call it Lake Forest Town Center, but it's where Mimi's Cafe and the 99-cent store and 99-cent bookstore are. That center is starting to see some new businesses come in and really be revitalized. And so it's just really exciting to see. Encourage you to patronize that center. And other than that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you for being here.